Okay, everybody, let me know if you can see me. I think we're set up. You're back with mac and cheese. Nice. Yeah, I didn't quite get food yet. We should have some Uber Eats here soon, and by that I mean my husband bringing me pizza that he ordered. And then Ross, I think, will be joining us here shortly as well. Um, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think we're doing good. We have made it to the last stream of this weekend. I am only slightly going absolutely and utterly insane. It's fine. Oh no, you're unable to start it. Jump out. Well, you can't hear me if you can't start the video. Oh, Phil's back. She's back in the comments in the chat. Hello, Phil. Nice to see you again. um. Yeah. Okay, Greg, you're in now. Okay, good. Okay, I think everyone's in here. Yes, she's back. She didn't hate you all enough to just run away forever. Yes, we are on the last stream, and while we're, waiting for Ross to jump in, yes, it has been a really long weekend. This has been, I keep touching my hair. Okay. It has been way more like fun than I was expecting it to be. Like I thought I would just be like here like hardcore mapping, and then occasionally random people would be like, "What you doing?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm doing some stuff over here." And they'd be like, "Cool. Later." But I've honestly had an absolute blast doing a mapping marathon like this. Like it's been a lot of fun. Like I don't know if it's been like as fun for all of you, but like being able to like chat with people and go through and do it, like I've had a ton of fun, and I'm very much enjoying it. So I definitely think it's something I'll want to do again at some point, like maybe try and do something, you know. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad it's been fun for you all too. But try and do something a little bit bigger next time, where like this time it was mostly just I'm gonna do a thing, you all jump along in as you can. And I've had like some people jump in with me in terms of other world builders and stuff, but like, yeah, exactly. We could bring everyone back, we can have a lot of fun. Maybe do something a little bit more wide scale next time. I don't know, we'll think about it. But oh yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that. Yeah. It's hard with Edgar sometimes because his videos take so much effort. Uh so he doesn't do a lot of like random stuff as much. Like he does a lot of stuff on lectures and jumping in on stuff like that, but he doesn't do a lot of stuff where he brings other people in because his stuff just takes so much effort. Also, we now have a Ross, and we now have Uber Eats.
Hello.
We were talking about how this world building mapathon has been a lot of fun, and we should do it again.
Oh yeah, the like, world building mapathon's good.
Yeah, maybe do it another, like, I don't know, be even more official about it. It's 11 p.m. Oh gosh, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, Edgar did say afterwards to me that, like, if I do this again, he's absolutely in. So,
yeah, you'll probably get some more folks in as well.
Yeah, like, I figure if I don't just do it, like, 2 weeks in advance and, like, actually plan it ahead a little bit, and now that I've done it and I kind of know how it works and, like, how it's gone, I feel like we could do something more, I don't know. We'll talk later, but... Oh, no, mouse. Yeah, we'll do it again. Yeah, so I think, Phil, you're saying that this is, you like it even though it's very messy. And I think it gets the vibes across for this map we have here. Oh, plan for January? I definitely don't think we'd do it sooner than January. A giant cohort in Iceland? That would definitely take some serious planning. Oh my gosh, I don't even know how that would work, but yeah. Perhaps more Europe-friendly hours next time. Yeah, if we did something more... Well, we have to kind of balance it, because, like, I mean, Ross, you and Edgar are kind of in, like, opposite directions from me, like, probably equidistant-ish.
Yeah, so... And whenever I talk to Edgar, it's usually, like, I guess, 11 a.m., 10 a.m., 9 a.m. my time, which I guess was kind of when he was on yesterday. And like anything earlier than that for me is just not going to work. So
Mhm.
so I think you have to balance between you know the transatlantic world and then the Pacific side of the continent.
Yeah. But if we did it bigger and we got more people involved in terms of like people who stream things, like we could have it be a larger span of times than just what's convenient for me. Because like this is going like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. my time, but
Yeah.
doesn't mean that other people couldn't do other things.
I'm an enigma. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I mean, we were joking again about the like how Ross has touched everyone in the last stream at their world building specifically.
Oh yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got? Oh yeah, that's a little. Is that's a whole little temple complex you got going on there?
So
That's
I
cool.
can give you the background of this real quick. And my goal for this last stream, other than I'm expecting the levels of unhingedness to be higher than previous. Yeah, don't stay awake for 48. Can you imagine like us 48 hours straight? Like we'd all just be drawing Teletubbies by the end of it. But my plan here, depending on like how chatty we're being, is to kind of hop back and forth between like just filling in little bits of this map that is just kind of like tedious while we like chat about bits.
Oh,
And
you filled in more of that southern part there too.
I
Got
did just
all
a
of
little bit.
got all that stuff in.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of this. And I did a little bit of this during some of my breaks, just kind of filling things in more. I have everything that's relevant right now. So there's
Good.
that. But we're filling out this little guy here.
Okay, yeah.
And one of the ideas that we had was so if we were kind of basing the like this radial spot of this city, uh, never eat south, the southwest of the little temple complex, as sort of being like maybe the center of the old like hamlet or something. And
Yeah.
then up on that hill being sort of maybe where like there was an old like manor house or like fort of some form or something up there. Oh wait, let me take this. Sorry. Yeah, good catch. That maybe the very first iteration of that complex was just like an old manor house of sorts. So orientation wise, the back part of this is like up against that like sort of that steep incline, and then there's another steep incline on the front, so it's kind of on a little like little plateau on the side of a bigger thing. Yeah. So over here is kind of where we were thinking would be the remnants of that early like estate or manor or something. So like you have this like larger house there. Can you actually see my mouse at all here? This
Not moment. Not for the moment. Oh yeah, kind of. But it is small and discreet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can always. Here's what we'll do. What did I do? Edit. Undo layer order. Let me add like a random layer, and all this layer is going to be is me temporarily labeling things as we talk about it, and then I'll erase it.
Good.
Okay. But yeah, this sector. Whoa. Let's make that a little bit more noticeable. This sector will sort of be the remnants of the like original estate. So that's like pre this being used for any temple uses. We have the like main, keep house manor, whatever. Some little sections of the back there where like maybe there would have been the little crops for.
Can you switch back to the other menu for a sec? The other map?
Yes.
So the square sort of fort looking thing to the northeast, is that higher than this?
Yes. It would have that's higher up and like sort of on the other side of it.
Okay, I see. Because I was thinking if originally, this little circle was at the highest point, I see how that looks.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, yeah, because historically the folks would probably want to be on the highest part of that hill.
Would it make sense that maybe there was something like intermediary here, but then something higher up, and like that got demolished for the palace, but we still have this one like keep that could oversee the village?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it probably like this area wouldn't be the oldest part of the site. They probably would have built up on the top, and then stuff would have scattered down the sides of this
Mm.
hill.
Okay.
And I mean, stuff gets demolished and people build
Mhm.
new stuff on it. Um, but like if you're imagining, if this, thousands of years ago was like a fortified settlement, then they'd
Mm.
probably fortify the top.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, yeah, this at some point there was like something here,
Yeah, yeah.
but like the older part of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have that. You have like various little like buildings, if that was like its own little complex. And then the next things to be added would have been probably as the magic use was sort of discovered, or like that the organization that uses magic kind of moved into this area, we'd have some combination of maybe like building an initial version of the temple, so maybe some of the lower levels of it or something. And then also over here, maybe starting to build in like dormitories,
Mm-hmm.
almost as if this was like sort of like a monastic kind of place,
Yeah.
back when it was less populated.
Mm-hmm.
So then we'd have eventually this bigger temple being built. Having like over here would be like the fancy people, elites, fanciest elites, I guess, in the.
The fanciest religious elites.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And this isn't even like, this is getting into the complex part where like they're not technically the religion. They might have started out being closer to the religion, but at least modern day, they're completely separate from the or I guess at the 500 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
they were pretty separate from the religion itself or the public religion. Like they probably were affiliated with it, but like they weren't
Oh, so like so the magic users. So is the temple associated with we'll call them we have magic specialists, and then
mm,
we have the ritual specialists. So if the
mm,
ritual specialists are the people who are in charge of their religion,
mm.
we can say the magic specialists are the people who are the ones who actually are doing magic. Is the temple associated with the people who do magic, or sorry,
Yes.
I gotta jump off for 1 sec.
Cool. Okay. Um the monastic part kind of reminds me of Mount Athos where no woman can enter. Yeah. I feel like there's like weird vibes about like which generation of this and the exact ordering of how it came apart, and like just how monastic it might have been at some part. It's kind of hard to tell, but I'm trying to see if there's any other labels we can put in here that would be helpful for Ross right now. But like we've kind of indicated that this part is the more like what were we calling this? Like the administrative more buildings, like admin / like public. And by public, we mean like this is where they would have had like their guests from like the leaders of the capital. So like rulers would be up over there. And then yeah, we have the temple there. This would have been the way to the city before.
Ross is back.
Hello, welcome back. We added a few more labels, but
There are a few more labels. The public domain over there.
that's where people that aren't in the secret society but would have been allowed to interface with them. So that would have been basically like the rulers of the nation would have met with them in that region.
Cool. Oh, so they are okay. So the magic users are like a secret society.
Yes.
Excellent.
So
okay.
This is the people that have their own like that hoarded all the knowledge about the spell language I've been conlanging. Like they're the people who actually understood what it was and carried that down and came up with their own like code language to be able to write down their knowledge of the spells, which still hasn't like is barely starting to become translatable now in current time. So it's very like secret society-esque. No one understood what happened. That's some of the mystery of the book. But very very isolated, very like, secret society.
Okay, cool. So the secret society who maintains the magic is discrete from the religious organization.
Yeah. Like the
Yeah.
religious
Okay.
organization would have been like people who are trying to maintain the favor of the various spirits and the goddesses in order to have the spirits like just be nice to their region, right? Like, we be nice to the
Mhm.
spirits, they be nice to us. Whereas this is like they're directly controlling the magic and the spirits and like directly influencing it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a sort of vibe we have at least.
Yeah. And does the secret society share kind of the philosophical understanding of the religion, or if the religion is there to like answer questions about how to live a good life, for example, do the secret society buy into that, or are they distinct from it? They have their own cultic practices.
So I think it began that way. Like honestly, they probably started as one entity
Hmm.
where through the like worship of the spirits and the goddesses they like discovered this magic, and then you have this branch of like the people that had that knowledge and then the people that like continued to spread that philosophy of the two goddesses, and they probably became increasingly separate the more restricted that magic use became and how much power they had. And so there's like a level of corruptness there eventually where they may say that they're more following the philosophical side of it, but they're more increasingly trying to maintain power and control and
Hmm.
the that sort of side of it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And sorry, before I jumped off, I asked who the temple belongs to.
That is where the there's like under parts of it. So that's
Hmm.
where the most sacred of their like knowledge and stuff would have been stored, like any like artifacts, any like the most important of their like grimoires and texts, and stuff like that would have been stored. And then I imagine in that sort of like open air area there, that would have been where they performed like magic rituals to like things that required more than one witch. Like they would perform it there as like a sacred magic casting space, sort of.
Hmm.
And then also like it'd be sort of visible from like the tops of it would have been visible from the city, so it would have been like a status symbol to an extent too.
Yeah. Okay. That's neat.
So, um, yeah. So we have the temple, and then this right side over here would have probably been a later addition or like more recently expanded out, where this would have been more like a lot of libraries, a lot of more like administrative stuff, like as they grew and became more important for the rule of like influencing the rule of the whole country. They
Hmm.
would have had a lot more of that kind of over here with like various buildings of sorts that would have like different administrative or academic purposes.
Hmm.
I think this little building there would have been like sort of like their equivalent of like a meeting hall or like public, not obviously public, but like if they were doing something that the whole society was brought to, if it wasn't like for a like ritual of sorts, which might have only been like the higher ups, it
Hmm.
would have been like in that facility.
Okay.
What else is relevant? Hmm. We added a few little I can't remember what those called, but like little protective bump outs, because at some point they probably would have wanted to have better defenses of it, but then they put little like trees on it. I don't know.
And then they put trees on it
Yeah.
because they don't have to defend against anything, and the trees are nice.
Exactly. And you could see the trees from the ground. So they're like, "Oh, look, that's where all the nature worshippers are, aren't they?
Yeah,
Devout."
yeah. Those are bastions that are
Bastions.
that are
Okay.
popping out. Yeah, and they allow for like inflating fire, and they increase your so if you have the bastions popping out, then people cannot come right up to the wall.
Mm,
And because of the bastions, if you are on one bastion and you look to your left, you can see the walls of the other bastion. So you can, shoot at the people who are at the walls of the other bastions as well. What would be a citadel then? Like citadel in terms of fortress, like a defensive like fortification, or
Also, we have Snoopy, the jade statue.
Snoopy. Oh, there you go. Yes. Citadels are usually the most defensible and the most heavily fortified part of a town or like a city or something like that. So um it would it and if you have like a fortress with bastions, the citadel is usually like the strongest part of that fortification. So in the map on the left hand side, in the other map on your left tab, um the citadel would probably be that like square in a fortified position that's on the highest part of the hill. We
Yeah.
could consider that, yeah. The palace would probably be considered the citadel of this city, because it would be the most heavily fortified. You have to go through several lines of defense in order to even make it there. It's at the top of a hill. The walls and these sorts of things are probably quite thick. They probably have a lot of stores to hold out in there for some period of time. And in a lot of medieval and early modern sieges, it was quite common for the besieging army to actually take most of the city and for all of the elites and the military garrisons to be in the citadel. So they would still be hanging out there, and the besiegers cannot leave until the citadel is taken.
Mm.
So it allows you to fall back through several lines of defense, and depending on your garrison and how many people you have. So in this situation where you've had peace for quite some time, how many of the people in the garrison or the gendarmes or whatever, how the defense of the city works, like how many of them are actually mobilized at any given time. So it may be worthwhile to put up like kind of a paltry defense at the old city walls, and then once you've made sure that everybody who's important has gotten into the inner walls or who's gotten into the bastion, you just pull them all back. Because the part of the kind of the point of having these sorts of situations, especially of horses, you said you have horse-like creatures,
Mm.
is if you have a military and they are attacking a polity and they want to take a specific target, and you have a fortified position in the way, you can't just move past it, because if you move past it, a mounted group of people inside that could come riding out and disrupt your army. So
Mm.
armies usually are not just one body. Oftentimes there's one column, but there can be multiple columns. But then they also have foragers who are like looting and raping and pillaging all of the countryside around them, and like going up to peasants and saying like, fork over all of your rice so that we can feed everybody. Or they're going to the mayors of cities and demanding them to, or towns or whatever, and demanding them fork over everything. And if you have a small body of professional mounted warriors who are inside of a fortified position, who can just kind of pop out
Mm.
and attack these foraging parties, which tend to be quite small and not arrayed for battle, that can just cause a huge problem for your logistical system. So and if you're getting supplied and you pass by a fortified position, then they can cut off your line of supply.
Mm.
So yeah, that's why when in the medieval and early modern period, when they when one army would invade another, they'd always have to leave a siege behind.
Mm.
So you'd have to kind of dump a few thousand people to surround it to make sure people didn't get in and out, and to move on to your actual target. And that's something that if people play, what is it called, Europa Universalis, it doesn't really work that way. Like, the forts are just kind of static things that control
Mm.
territory around them. So if you can move around them in their zone of influence, they can't really do anything. Um, but yeah, so your citadel is your most defensive position, and it's usually the hardest thing to take, um, and requires the least amount of people to hold.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense.
Yeah,
So if we go back over here.
back here.
Yes. So in terms of, because there's kind of a few different parts of this, right? Like you have the slight defensiveness of it, of wanting to keep people out, because in theory there's probably periods of time where people were like, well, why do they have all the power and the knowledge? Maybe we could
Why don't they share?
right, why don't they share? So like I imagine there could have been some like peasant uprising type things that they would have defended against with all their fancy walls and balustrades.
Yeah.
And series of walls and stuff here, but also then you have the like, we were trying to build it up so it looked like there was different segments of it that were built at different times and sort of had different like priorities and how they were using space, which I'm not sure how well that worked out. And also I don't actually know anything about how religious facilities were built, so I was like, look, we built a temple thing, and then there's buildings.
Well, usually in archaeological sites where you have a temple complex, like this won't be the first temple that's built there.
Mm-hmm.
So usually, they'd build a temple there and that temple works great. Or in some societies, if they have specific complexes. So if you have, I don't know, this is an example, but if you had like a moon temple and a sun temple, they could be across from each other,
Mm-hmm.
with a plaza between them.
Right.
And they may build that, and then somebody, some elites may decide to gain favor by building a very nice sun temple, and then eventually they demolish and replace the old ones, or they convert the old temples into other kinds of temples. So there's usually at long held sites like a series of building
Right.
on top of them. And we could also imagine when this settlement was first being developed and inhabited, if they have their most fortified position at the top of the hill, this may be, this may have historically been a place where richer people lived.
Right.
And the temple complex could have just already been here.
That's true.
And if, wealthier people lived here, you may have had a situation where, you'd have fortifications kind of around the bottom of the hill, around this area of fortifications, and then you have another set where the palace is now. Not necessarily thinking about the peasants who want to share the knowledge, but also just thinking about, defending your religious centers and your ritual centers.
Right.
In a lot of warfare between different groups, they may want to take each other's religious stuff, uh, or
Right.
destroy their religious complexes to show how great they are. If one
Mm-hmm.
group is like, yeah, our spirits are better than your spirits, we're going to go destroy your spirit worshiping places,
Yeah.
and that will mess you up. So there's a good reason for those sorts of areas to be fortified.
I could maybe add like an originating hint of like, because if this was originally for religious uses, maybe I could have had a different temple originally from each goddess, and maybe that's been repurposed or torn down for various reasons.
Yeah, and then you could also have, depending on how they build the temples. So this one looks like it has like a pretty solid platform at the base.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, some of the other buildings could actually be raised up on platforms. So
Mm.
say, they build one of these like temple platforms, they build something on top, and then they take the temple down and someone builds a monastery on top of it.
Yeah.
Um, or, they convert the temple into a monastery, or into a different kind of building. So that's
Right.
always. And then Greg, temple on top of a temple. When Christians arrived in Scandinavia, they demolished a pagan temple and built church on the same site. Yeah, so demolishing and then repurposing, as well as just straight up repurposing. Like there are a lot of mosques in Anatolia that historically were churches. And then you also have stuff in India right now where they are demolishing mosques and building Hindu temples, right? And this will always come with some degree of controversy and conflict, as religious groups don't like it when their sacred sites are taken away from them and given to another group or repurposed.
Yeah, fair. And we did have one question about putting the legend for the map on the website. And I assume you're talking about this map and my various colors. I need to figure out if I'm going to do that at some point. I hadn't, because these are for my personal world building stuff, so I hadn't considered putting them on the website, but that is something I will think about. But yes.
Yeah.
So we have, I think that makes sense, because at least this iteration of the temple, I want there to be an underground section of it, but it might make sense once I get into that for that underground section of the temple to have maybe been part of a previous iteration of the temple, and this upper part is like has been redone with a different style or a new like purpose to it. So
well, and especially for stone buildings, you know, the architectural styles of like stone monumental buildings tend to kick around for quite some time. So, you know, there could be in this complex, you know, if they've been here for 1,000 years or so, like you could have like an old temple that's been turned into something else that has like a very antiquated style compared to some of the newer buildings in the complex. There's a conspiracy theory. It's like, what is it? The Khazaria thing, where people are arguing that all of these or Tataria or something like that. They argue that a lot of the monumental architecture that's been built in the past few hundred years is actually super old. And they argue this because, like, you know, the Washington Memorial looks like ancient Greek sites. Therefore, it must be as old as those sites. And then like refusing to understand that like people take inspiration from, you know, past monumental sites when they build new sites, as well as like most of the architecture that people have built has been made of like, I don't know, mud brick and, you know, wood. And these things don't necessarily last very long. They burn down, they degrade, they collapse, you know, people break them and build new stuff on top of them. So like we tend to not see every single step or the whole variety of architectures that places build over time because they don't get preserved in the record all that often. But yeah, that's a fun conspiracy.
Sorry, it sounded like I was hearing like very quiet, like wolves howling or dogs howling or something. I'm just like, what is that? I don't know. I don't think you all can hear it because it's pretty quiet. So we will not worry about it. But so then next question. So I have this front open space right now. Yeah. Up in here. Which I'm not sure what would make the most sense to put in there. Like, I suppose that could always be holdovers from back when, like, the elites had the housing there if they lived up there at some point. So just, like, something that would look like a elite neighborhood from hundreds of years ago, or if there'd be other important, like, you know, religious-type facilities that would be important here that I'm missing out on. Because I imagine this would be one of the newer parts to have been built. Probably around the time that they added that side, like administrative side, they probably would have created this front part that we just put trees down the front road just so that there was something fancy there.
Oh, this plaza, yeah.
Yeah, but there wouldn't be like guests. There would never be guests here. This would be mostly like, so I don't know if it really makes sense to have it be this kind of grand entrance unless they just use it for like their own internal pomp and circumstance, but...
Well, I think, maybe if they have a ritual that involves important people or important stuff entering
Mm,
that complex,
mhm,
then, that could be, uh, a grand way to welcome them, get all of the ritual and, like magic specialists and like the elites, other
mhm.
elites, if they're allowed in there, and they all line up and witness, important processions and things like that.
That's an interesting idea.
So that could be a reason to have like sort of a grand promenade there. Um, their own produce gardens, areas for experimentation.
Oh, yeah. So my thought is, like, there would have originally
That's
been
also
their
sorry.
own production here, but at the point that this became a populated, like, temple, they're receiving a lot of tribute from the city, and they can easily import stuff into the city, so I don't think they would need to have as much of their own internal production and self-sufficiency as you would see, like, a more isolated monastery would have.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, there'd certainly be some, you know what I mean? Magical plants. So actually, that's a good idea. Well,
I don't know
that's
if
a
you'd
good idea.
want that to be in this area because
Mm,
it seems like that would be something better for around the actual temple itself.
mm. So I do have. It's not specifically for a magical purpose, but we do have these very extensive botanical gardens, which is where a lot of the magic use sources certain ingredients from. Currently, at least, but that's probably newer and wouldn't have been in use at the time. But there probably would have been various like I mean, this is a like there's jungle, there's rainforest all about like there's going to be
Yeah.
local types of things all over the place.
Mm,
But it might make sense for there to be a sector of it that's more for the like potion side of it, like where there would be some like smaller gardens or stuff, or maybe that would have just ended up being over here because that's where they would have already had those kinds of gardens and stuff already.
and is the keep there? Who tends to use that keep?
Well, currently no one,
No one.
but
Okay.
back when this was populated, like before the secret society disappeared,
Mm,
that probably would have been used by like the head person of it,
okay.
or like the head like order of it.
I mean, it'd be interesting in this front area if you put in some temples that were older temples, or maybe if you put them in those locations,
Mhm,
and maybe instead of having this straight road, you could have more of something. Not the horizontal road from our perspective. It could be something more curved, kind of,
mhm,
because the one on the larger temple seems to organize things around it in kind of a circular way.
mhm.
Um, maybe that's part of the landscaping of the older temples if they are also
Mm,
built in kind of circles as their architectural design, and then people kind of organize that around them, or they may be built in a circle and later people decided that they were going to landscape kind of circular stuff around them.
right.
Oh, and I think MV said good night, and you
Oh yeah.
mentioned mosques in India on temples. Yeah, sometimes temples. Yeah, there were some temples converted to mosques as well. I went back and forth.
Mm,
I was just referring to temples to mosques because that's the current thing that's going on.
yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of like all the magic items that people are discussing, there wouldn't really be much in terms of magic item creation. Like enchanting of things isn't a big part of the magic system. There might have been like little bits of that, but that isn't quite how the magic system works. So it's a lot of books, which would be like grimoires and magical texts and understanding how the magic works. And also there would have been some artifacts, but those would have been artifacts that were like specifically given certain powers or certain like significance from the spirits. So it wouldn't necessarily be that they've enchanted this item to have magical purpose, but like this item is important to said like magical spirit or entity and is a symbol of X, Y, or Z. Like there's a number of those. But they wouldn't be like necessarily creating them themselves. Any like magic items, the magic would be very temporary.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be like they would have some of that, but wouldn't be too involved. But I like the idea of having, at least to some extent, like the remnants of the old temples, even if it's like they had started to fall apart to some extent or been like obviously repurposed
Yeah.
as like a holdover to it. But
Or they could just, people could, when they enter the complex or they're walking between various things, it's like, oh, these are the old temples. Yeah, they
right,
could just be ruins. Like it's like,
yeah,
oh, we just have these old things here.
yeah, I
Maybe,
like
people don't take them down because they think the spirits like them.
right, right. Like
It's
even though
like,
they're not religious, I mean, they're not like it's more philosophy than religion,
yeah,
but
I
like
mean, they
even
may
though
be
they're not
superstitious, right? They may
right,
be like, do we want to take that down? Like,
they'll probably be angry. Yeah, like
yeah, like,
there's
you
definitely
know,
that part of it. I think
or,
that I think would actually
they could also keep them there. Another important thing for organizations is, charting their legitimacy too. So it's like,
mm-hmm.
hey, look, we have this big temple here. It's very important. We do secret stuff in it. Also, here are the other temples that kind of show that, you know, we have been here a long time. We
Right,
have predominance here. We have this lineage of practice. Even if, the people who, use this complex don't know about or don't care about the old stuff, like it may still be useful,
right,
in order for them to kind of claim kind of a sacred lineage at the site. Because when you're thinking about, there are a lot of different reasons why a space is sacred, and the ways that places maintain an understanding of kind of a sacred site. And one of those is establishing that important lineage of other places being sacred. Like a lot of sacred sites that we have today are places that prior to their current meaning, they had a
mm-hmm.
previous sacred meaning too.
Right,
Um, and, I think Mecca, quite famously, like, there that was a sacred site where there were a bunch of different temples and idols, and a lot of worship went on prior to Islam. So, it just kind of moved into a site that was already sacred to that population, and altered it and maintained that tradition. So yeah, you can. So there's a lot of reasons why they may want to keep some old stuff around, and
right,
repurpose it, or have it in ruins, or re
right,
um, maybe at some point someone wants to renovate it
right, yeah,
and like repaint it and get rocks and rebuild it and stuff.
right. Which I feel like would make a lot of sense. And especially given that this is like a secret society of sorts, where like I feel like a lot of the secret societies that and of course we all have such a great understanding of how all these things existed and worked
Yeah,
despite their secrecy. But they always seem to be very like that lineage, and the lineage of the individuals that are involved in it is also very important, like their connection to the history of it.
yeah,
Um,
and in a lot of old grimoires and stuff,
yeah,
in the in the Christian and Jewish and Muslim and like pre kind of Abrahamic world, um, they always would have like, oh, this spell was given to us by Solomon,
right.
right? Or like an angel gave it to this important person, and now I am giving it to you. So being able to trace like that very important like cultic lineage has been a very prominent thing for various ritual specialists when they've been passing down spells and magic and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of secret societies, a lot of the people who belong to them are involved in these clubs for other reasons too, right? Like they want to influence things, they want to be powerful. That's why a lot of people joined the various secret societies, like occultist societies and stuff, in the
Mhm.
late modern period. They wanted to be Illuminati or whatever because they wanted to change the world in some way.
Right.
So and then we also have like the Masons and these kinds of things, and they are secret, but they also are active in their communities and doing things and whatnot. So I think there's always this tension between, we have our secret rituals that people undoubtedly find out about, but also, we want to make our mark and we want people to, you know, low key know that we're a thing.
Right.
Um,
Right. Because you need that status. That status.
yeah. Um, Unless you're doing something that's, because like when the Illuminati were originally a thing, like they were trying to like spread literacy and various like liberal and ideas to kind of undermine, monarchy and other stuff like that. And so
Mhm.
I think like one of the big things that got them found out was like an Illuminati member was carrying a bunch of letters and he got caught.
Oh
And so they got,
no.
and so, the kind of kings of the Holy Roman Empire found out, or not the princes of the Holy Roman Empire found out because they, got all these letters that kind of revealed all these communications and who was who and that kind of stuff.
Oh my god.
So there is like a distinction between, these largely men's clubs
Mhm.
and, kind of conspiratorial groups that want to alter things, and then and the ritual stuff overlaps.
Right. Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense here because like the way I've been thinking about it, like it is a secret society to where a lot of like the way it functions would have been a secret, but like their prominence, while mysterious, would have been very, very like everyone would have been very aware of it. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and some of the high level stuff they did as well. So like I think that actually makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
And would actually I hadn't considered any sort of like processional type things where like outside people are brought in, but it actually does make a lot of sense for like if they have like certain areas of this that are very closed off, but like certain elites or certain people, like if you um like what's this like rub the right elbows or something? I don't know. There's sayings, but like
Yeah, yeah.
where you could be like invited to witness certain like rituals that would not be the ones that are like as secretive, like you get a little taste of like what it is to, use
Yeah.
magic, but not actually how to do it or anything like that.
Well, say it's like, I don't know, a spirit's birthday, and
Right.
an important figure in uh your secret society goes from the temple with a special cup to the river, fills the river with the water, and then brings it back to the temple. You could
Right.
imagine that like, common people would line up, along the route that's taken, and then, these
Right.
special people line up inside of the keep, and so you could have the heads of the kin groups. You could have important organization members from like guilds and other like administrative things and stuff like that, all inside the temple complex, in
Mhm.
that first area. And then you could have, I don't know, lower level secret society people, religious elites, those sorts of things. And then on the inside the temple, that's where you actually have the actual secret society members themselves.
Right.
um and it's a um and so you can work with those kinds of things where it's like, oh yeah, these people are important. Maybe people just like, oh yeah, they keep the spirits happy,
Right.
and all of the actual ritual is shrouded in uh you know levels of secrecy and initiations and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, which fits very, very well into what I've sort of imagined all of this
Mhm.
working. Because
Yeah.
it's definitely kind of hard for me to like. I have to keep reminding myself that like this is where I'm getting that big sense of like change over time. Because like the secret society has been gone for hundreds of years at the time that my story is,
Yeah.
you know, playing out, but it's still relevant and like still seeing how people would have viewed magic and those types of roles within like society and government then versus how it would change down, how they'd be looking back at like those positions, and like now everything's out in the open, right? Because the government's rediscovering this stuff and it's being done in academies, and even though it's very controlled within like those organizations, like if you have enough aptitude, like you can go to the academy and just eventually learn this stuff. And like even though it's super controlled, there are people out in the streets and shops like doing magic and selling things, and like trying to think about how even though it was hundreds of years ago, all that being super secret would impact how it's like sort of viewed now.
And who's in that complex now? Is it like that's where the academy is now?
So right now, the so the under parts of the temple and like the catacombs and stuff, or like whatever the under layers of it,
Hmm.
uh what you would know at the beginning of the book, or what would be common knowledge, would be that there's very important things in the bottom of
Hmm.
that temple that involve the understanding of magic and certain artifacts that were very important to the spirit guardian of their country.
Yeah.
And in some series of events, people are now unsure of the exact ordering of things, but there was some big ritual, something happened, everyone in the secret society was gone,
Yeah.
and the favor of that spirit guardian disappeared and stopped selecting their rulers.
Mm.
So there's this belief that like, you know, whatever's trapped in that temple and like sealed inside of that temple is what would return the favor of their spirit guardian that was keeping like, you know, the climate super favorable for agriculture and like preventing massive floods and like, you know, keeping everything happy and stable, is in there. And so
Yeah.
they attempted, even once the secret society that used magic, right, was gone and they had no knowledge of this whatsoever, they tried to get into the temple
Hmm.
and essentially triggered like sort of like magical traps of like, you know, there being big reactions to them trying to force their way
Oh.
in.
So they can't actually go into this complex.
They can't go into the temple.
The temple, all right, but
Yes.
like the
Yes.
where these like like the old monastery kind of residences and stuff like that.
They could
Isn't
enter them. Yeah.
they could enter them, but people
Right.
just tend not to go in this complex?
So after like a series of like people attempting to get into the temple and causing like what I would assume like magical ricochets that would be very deadly, like
Yeah.
maybe you wipe out a small sector of the city, or like have effects, or like something that would have not necessarily destroyed the buildings but would have uh killed people slash made them very sick or injured, like something like that resulting from it, where they're like, okay, we just need to keep people from attempting to come anywhere near this. So it's
Mhm.
basically the whole catacomb is essentially sealed off, other than some of the upper levels of the academy, where they're using the translation of like the original grimoires, would maybe be over here. Yeah, maybe like a blight or something. I don't know.
Oh, so
But
this
they
this public area, people can still kinda go in, but the
right.
rest
Well,
of
those
it.
very limited people, right?
Uh-huh,
Who
yeah.
like that's maybe where they keep the grimoires and stuff that's like super controlled, but otherwise it's only like a group of sentries and like keepers that maintain this area, mostly
Yeah.
for the like, let's make sure we don't anger the spirits any more than we already have and keep this at least maintained, but otherwise
Mhm.
only a few very restricted people are allowed in here, and basically only over here. Um so that's sort of the reminding you of the Derinkuyu labyrinth city built in Turkey. I am not familiar with that. I have to look that up. But like there's some vibes of that, right? Where like hold on, let me drink some water.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of, underground cities that were carved into the ground in Cappadocia, so
Ooh.
it's like a volcanic rock that is rather soft,
Mm.
So, people had a choice to kind of build houses above ground or to, dig underground. And some of these are quite deep. Some of them go down, I think, a dozen levels.
Oh, wow.
And you could have, you know, hundreds or, in some cases, thousands of people living under there.
Mm.
But the people who originally built them were probably the Phrygians.
Mm.
So they were like an Indo-European group that's probably related to like they spoke a language like related to Greek in some way.
Oh, okay.
And then Greek kind of displaced Phrygian, and it was probably finished by the time the Byzantines, like the Eastern Roman Empire, was a thing, and it was used, quite frequently, as a place to kind of like protect themselves from, various wars and stuff that were happening. And it's been used, yeah, it was used pretty regularly.
Mm.
Um, uh, up until I don't know, maybe a few hundred years ago. But some of the underground cities were still being used by Cappadocian Greeks and Armenians who lived in those highland areas and stuff. Until quite recently, when they started to be converted into tourist areas, and some of them were being excavated and stuff.
That's
So,
really cool.
and some of these cities were actually quite large, and they had tunnels that connected them to other nearby cities.
That's so
Um,
cool.
yeah, so those are really neat, and yeah, I've a couple areas in my project. They're igneous provinces, or they have like uplifted softer rock where this is something that people do because having underground cities is very fun.
Yeah.
I think somebody was discussing like, oh, what if you had a really big cave? Like, how many people could you fit in a large cave? And based on like looking at like the surface area and stuff like that, it's like you probably couldn't fit that many people in there if you had a large cave. But if you dug underground and you could dig out all of your structures and stuff, like you could dig out a pretty big city, but not like Mesobaranian or whatever, like in Forgotten Realms, the Drow
Mm.
live in one group of Drow live in this big huge chasm, but like that's far too big
Yeah.
for an underground chasm and for the number of people to live there. Um, uh,
Right.
Emma was very inspired by that city when working on a desert world. It's too hot during the day. Yeah, living underground is good when it's too hot.
Mm.
But they had what did they have? They had some ingenious stuff. They had like kind of hidden vents, so there would be air circulation.
Mm.
They had wells. They had places to bring their animals, so they could herd their animals on the. It's like hot and cold, semi-arid climate, so they could herd their animals up top during the day and do their farming and stuff, and then bring the animals down into the underground cities with them.
That's
Um,
cool.
they had smithies. They had various like religious sites and stuff throughout them.
That's
Oh,
so cool.
Madeline, how long has your area been, I will say, quote unquote, civilized? The temple's been there for a while, but Emma can't recall how long the area has I guess, been inhabited.
Right.
The language I'd prefer.
I don't know exactly if I've gotten too specific, but like I would say that this area was probably united under one, like the whole, because the whole island is more or less one like nation, right? It's sort of, I guess at this point it sort of is a nation state because it's the whole island is under one empire. Or I don't know, you wouldn't even call it an empire, but just one
Polity.
kingdom,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, one polity. And that's probably been for about probably like 700 years, and it's been mostly stable ish. Like it's sort of deteriorating at this point, which is part of the problems. But probably around the time or a little after, like in the time frame of when this original place was like the little hamlet with the little like that would have been like an initial place of a smaller polity that would have made up probably this valley in the going back maybe like 1,000 years. in that sort of time frame. And then before that, it would have been like probably, some varying degree of like, maybe there would have been some smaller kingdoms in the valley. Maybe it would have been mostly just like farmland, going through those cycles. But probably within the last slightly over 1,000 years, it's been some form of state in this valley to the island size, like somewhere in that scale, I think, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's sort of how I'm picturing it. I haven't
Yeah.
nothing's tied into that. Really nothing beyond the like original, like the way the place was when the secret society was in full force. Like I haven't gotten anything tied in super strictly before that. So I have a lot of wiggle room if I need to work something specific in, but that's kind of what would make sense, I think, to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. I haven't actually added in my religious facility inside of here yet. I have this little one out here, which would have been like a external like site for one of the religions, and the other one, there'd probably be minor ones in the city, and then I need to bring like the other religion would be in the city. I haven't added that yet, but
and I saw that you added a little situation by the rivers in the south. You got like a little. There we go.
yeah.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
have we spent a lot of time. This is what we did this morning stream, but we realized that it would probably make sense for there to be some like little docks, and we decided we'd have a little like protected area, but we needed all the infrastructure around the docks, like all the like warehouses that they'd be moving goods in and out of before they come into the city, would probably all still need to be in that wall because it hasn't been like once it leaves it, it needs to have already been taxed.
Yeah.
So we have the two roads. So like the outer road would be where the foot traffic is going through, so it's not in the way of like the dock workers, and then the inner road would be mostly for dock workers and loading and unloading of goods and stuff.
Yeah. So you've got like this little like river harbor,
Yeah.
thing going on. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, we got little boats.
And then as the river kind of brings sediment downstream, I mean, you'd have an issue of sediment piling up against both the outside of it, but also it would start filling in the harbor. So there'd have to be a concerted effort, either constantly or when it gets bad, of actually removing sediment from the inside of that river, or else it would get full of sand and stuff.
Right. There have to
That
be
is,
lots of like maintenance.
yeah, that's something that we talk to first year students about when we talk about beaches.
Good night.
Good night. Because yeah, we talk about coastal budgets of sediments, how much sediment enters the system, how much leaves the system, and we like showing kind of water tables with sediment moving around to show how it's like, oh, you build a harbor here, everything seems fine, and then within 2 decades it becomes full of sand.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. I'm just thinking, oh, here's Emma again. I'm just thinking of the antiquity of the area. I was curious if ancient cities would have been built, Catalhoyuk, or just temples. Catalhoyuk's interesting because it's I don't know if we call it a city. It's definitely a long-term settlement. And yeah, like the Neolithic settlements like Catalhoyuk are pretty cool. You have doors on your roofs.
Yeah. I imagine there would have been like something like that in various sites, probably up here at some point. Up here, this far upriver, might have been a little bit less developed. Up versus like I feel like downriver there would have been larger, more population dense areas sooner. There probably was various things here, like the hamlet and stuff that we talked about, but I feel like the other stuff would have been closer to the actual shores, right, versus along the river.
Greg, we had a debate regarding the harbor. What would the hydrodynamics be like in this configuration?
Oh,
Oh.
yes. There was debate about this morning.
Oh, yeah. So assuming east is downriver.
Yes, it is.
As the flow comes by, it would actually swoop in a counterclockwise direction into the harbor. So you would have, the river kind of veering off and like swooping in, and it would pile up sediment. This kind of situation, like this could have been the remnants of like an oxbow at some point. And then people are like, hey, this is pretty cool. And then they dig out half the oxbow and, then they have a harbor. But then the reason why it's an oxbow is because, the river moved and, followed a path of least resistance. So, the sediment would continue to build up on the outside of that bend. So it would have to be like continually maintained. Speeds up. Yeah, it could. It is off to the side, so there would be drag. It would be deflected, so I don't think there would be too much of an Venturi effect. It would probably be calmer than the river, than the flow of the river itself. Going in from up, moving downstream and getting in would probably be easy. I mean, if you're going upstream, it'd probably be pulled by like the water buffalo, as we discussed before. Coming out, it may be a little choppy. So it's not something that you'd do in like a canoe, really. But under lots of oars or under a sail, it'd be easy,
And then Seamus mentioned our little mills. We added a
would it be better to destroy the wall and have 2 inlets?
Oh yeah, that's how we started this. We'll go back up to the dam in a second. But yeah, we started with just the whole thing cut out, and then we added the center like island thing, and then we connected it.
I don't think it would be better to destroy the wall, because then
hold on. What, James? Okay, you can keep talking. My son has something to show me. I'll be right back.
If you had 2 inlets, then the flow would probably be stronger. Like it wouldn't be very good to actually like have a safe harbor there to kind of keep boats in this kind of configuration, like a harbor. Yeah. Yeah, basically eddy currents. Yeah, it you by creating that wall, you've created a safe harbor where you would have a buildup in sediment coming through one side, but at the very least you're able to keep things there. Oh, that's nice. That's very bright pink and green.
The garbage truck.
The green is definitely, yeah, those are garbage colors.
Yep.
Yeah.
So did we come to the conclusion that we like this setup?
I like it better than having 2 inlets, especially if like the other inlet went where that wall is. Because then the river flow would be broken up, and you'd actually have I don't think you'd be able to actually have a safe harbor there where you could keep ships, unless you brought them out of the water. Yeah, you definitely have eddies. And yeah, that's a very common harbor configuration. It just needs maintenance like anything else. It's not that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We added a dam and some little mills. That's what these little guys right there are.
Yeah, everybody needs a mill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greg, those are good questions though when thinking about this kind of stuff. Yeah, mills are great. Everybody needs a mill.
Yeah. I don't know if that's enough mills.
I mean, you'd probably want to have mills off of these various canals and stuff as well.
Yeah. Spread
Especially,
those out.
yeah. Um, Especially like what they're milling rice into like rice flour,
Yeah, probably that,
or
and
they
they
could be
probably
using it to mill wood and stuff, like lumber mills.
yeah. No, I think those would. Well, I mean, maybe a little bit. A little bit of all the things, maybe.
You can use mills to help you weave textiles and stuff. A lot of uses for mills.
Okay. So yeah, we might have another like um maybe like another little like chunk of the city over on this side of the water that might have some mills or something too, maybe.
Hmm.
And up in these regions, maybe even like
Yep.
even if we had
Oh, wait a minute. A spillway. Oh yeah,
yeah.
there's Seamus. Pops up with
Yes.
spillway at the same time as I read the comment. Yeah, having a spillway is good.
Mhm.
Uh, just in queso. Though, can you zoom out for a sec? Oh yeah. Hmm. I don't know if that would be a great um, for the spillway. Uh, hmm. Yeah, I'll come back to the spillway. We can keep doing something else.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna add some more little mills real quick while we're talking about that. And I'm thinking about it. Um Making maybe go into the fields.
So the is this thing where the mills are along? Is that a stream or a river?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a river. It's not as major as like this river, which is like
Yeah.
really big, like you can have like boats coming up it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit smaller than that, but it's probably more like maintained with the canal where you would control the force through like the dam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and a
Okay.
series of
Yeah.
stuff there.
I wasn't sure if that was also like an irrigation canal, because that was like if these were both like irrigation canals and this is a um and to the east, what is to the south of the dam here and all of these um this like fuel like tree area?
That's where we're growing some of our like trees for firewood and stuff.
Yeah.
Mainly.
Oh yeah, yeah. To the south of that and to the southwest of that, what's there?
Over here?
Nope, that's southeast.
Over here?
Yes. What's in this area?
That's probably outside the main limits of the city, so we'd probably have some like rice farms out in that area, I would probably expect.
Do you have a like a height map? I think you had a bit of a rough one.
Yeah, so we have these are our contours.
Ah, I see. So something that you may be able to how much of this stuff is on the same layer? Because something I could suggest is that you may want to move the dam here
Mm,
back to where that you see that contour is.
yeah.
If you move it back and kind of use the dam to kind of connect along that contour, and then maybe the spillway connecting to the larger tributary to the south may be more ideal.
Hmm.
Because like you don't necessarily want the spillway to overflow through where all of your mills are.
Right. So if we move it like up here.
Yeah, so if you move your dam back to around there, and then try to have the spillway going like southeast and connecting to the tributary to the south. And it could also kind of maybe function as like a secondary um whatchamacallit, irrigation channel or something like that.
Hmm.
Um oh, that's a very interesting way to layer that stuff.
It was totally intentional.
Excellent. Because like if
That's close. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense if we like erase some of this.
Because if you're, you've got your stream and you have dammed it up and you have now built a bunch of mills along there, you need to ensure you have a steady, reliable flow for all of these mills to function as intended. And if you have a spillway or an overflow channel, if it rains a lot, where's the water go? Down the spillway, and that could inadvertently raise the water level and either damage or make the mills inoperable. So having it go like rejoin, either go to a different tributary or rejoin later, would be more ideal. So having the spillway going, east and then south, and then kind of joining with the stream, the tributary of the major river that's to the south would probably be a better idea.
Yeah, which if it's further back like this, I feel like that would absolutely be doable.
Yeah, just moving it around a bit.
That would be roughly going
and you have is this other brown to the east of that? Oh no, that's an elevation line. That's a contour line. Yeah. Okay, there's the similar color brown.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
So then I can erase this friend here.
Yes.
Go up to boop, right there. Friend. And then we'll want to have river or some level of roads going up here still. Which to keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
And that's also good because that gives us more room to have mills.
Yeah. Yes, Greg. I like this modification too. I think because I do deal with a decent amount of permaculture stuff, and a lot of permaculture stuff is working with your watershed and thinking about conserving water and keeping water in the ground, and also moving water to other spots. So, So thinking about the contours. I mean, this is a little too straight for your spillway, probably, but that's okay. It's fine.
I figure once I add in like some of the farms out here and get some of the like feel of the grading of the land, we can make it kind of go with that, and maybe they use spillover for extra irrigation or something.
Well, and I think you probably get some irrigation channels off of that tributary to the south. If you're doing like wet rice farming, you'd probably want to control overflow and stuff, and then that would probably link to the spillway as well. So there's probably multiple uses for your spillway.
I'll need to probably find some maps of what that would look like with the irrigation channels. It's probably a lot simpler than I'm picturing, but
well, yeah, because like the heavily intensive rice terraces are one way of doing it. Like the other way of doing it is just having little, like, I don't know, quarter acre squares, and just having those, and like one person can manage a decent number of those squares and like make enough rice to feed a bunch of people. So there's different ways of organizing it, and during the wet season, having your rice paddies overflow a little bit is not the end of the world, but overflowing your mills and stuff is a bit more of a problem.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
and that shouldn't be too hard to. Oh, I don't even know what I'm thinking. That's the wrong layer. That's the wrong color. I'm not going to do it.
What?
Yeah, I think that will make sense. Then I can add a lot more mills, and then they'd probably be like little bits of production centers around that a little bit. Let's see. I feel like I like the idea of.
Oh, and then the other issue with the spillway too is depending on the the downriver where you have like all of these little houses with like gardens and like green space and stuff,
Yeah.
that would be flooded.
Yeah.
So
Which,
that is another consideration.
yes. Okay. So yeah, I think this will be good. And I feel like these ponds that I have here would be designed so that they'd sort of like, if something were to flood, they would flood a little bit first to deal with like a little bit of variation, but that would probably just be like rainwater
Mm-hmm.
in this general area, like coming out of the city or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
um,
if you wanted something to deal with, you know, um, yeah, if you wanted to have a body like an excavation or something that would deal with an overflow from the dam, then that would probably you'd want that to be upstream more. But
right.
these little guys would probably deal with runoff and stuff like that coming from your agroforestry and stuff like that, and they probably help capture water too. So during the dry period, you know, um, the trees would still have a good degree of moisture in the watershed. How
Right.
much are the rivers affected by the monsoon? That's a very good question.
I think that so originally it wouldn't have been a lot, but it's probably something that's becoming or that has been a bit of an issue since they've lost the stabilizing effect of the favor of the wind guardian spirit, whatever. Um, so it would probably be a slight issue. Like it's still a very tropical region, like it's still going to be very wet, but they probably will have a season that's a little bit more prone to flooding than it used to be. So in the last couple hundred years, they've probably had to expand some of their infrastructure to deal with more flooding than they used to
What?
have to.
How close to the? What's the latitude?
We are at, hold on. Open. Where is it? That's a Photoshop file. Let's open this guy real quick. Okay, so we are at probably like 46 degrees south.
Oh,
40.
okay. So this is hot world.
Yes, we're not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. I think that how do I okay, hold on.
Because that's
Maybe.
pretty far south for it being tropical.
Okay, hold on. Let's pull up.
Like I live at 40 degrees north.
Yes. So you can tell me how atrocious my hold on a second. Is that right? Oops. Yeah. So it's technically CWA.
Oh, okay. I was thinking because we were saying before it was like AF or
Yeah, I think I
AM or
forgot that
whatever.
it's still
Okay.
like in the like yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean the monsoon would then be would be quite severe and annoying.
Mm, yeah.
Because it's you're receiving how much more is it? I believe for CWA for Copen it's like 10 times the amount of precipitation in the wettest summer month than the driest winter month. So yeah, that would probably be be quite frustrating to deal with.
Yeah. I think it'll be less bad for because again, whoa. We are looking like right in here. So this is pretty mountainous, so there's some like a lot of that water is going to be buffeting up against I think the northwest side of the island if I'm remembering what those maps look like.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably wouldn't be that atrocious on this side of the mountain range it's on, but it would definitely still be a significant factor.
Yeah.
Can't believe I thought this wasn't actually AF. I mean, it's all like, I pull up my biomes. Why are all my biomes hidden? There we go. Oh, maybe it's not even as rainforesty as I pictured it being.
At least 10 times as much rain as the wettest month of summer as in the driest month of winter. Yes, I was correct. Okay. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's still a lot. Like, but that you know, a CWA is, you know, there's a variation between, you know, the driest month gets like 10 millimeters and the wettest month gets 100 millimeters or 40 millimeters and 400 millimeters, right? Like, you
Yeah.
know, there's quite a degree of variation as how severe it could be. But if the ground is quite dry, then, you know, a sudden, you know, onsweep of the monsoon can create landslides and get a bunch of water into the into river systems that would otherwise be unexpected.
Okay. I saved. Everyone
Brilliant.
reminding me I saved. Yeah, so it's not quite as
Tropical.
yes, as I had been, for some reason in my head, have been slowly moving more, I guess, thinking, imagining it more and more tropical.
And just move the continent further south or
I mean,
whatever, further north,
I could.
equatorward.
Yeah, I could. What is the latitude of Hanoi?
Because you were mentioning Vietnam and stuff like that, so I was like, huh. Oh, Hanoi, that is
21.
tropical. Yes.
Okay.
That is.
Why was I using, okay, I don't know what to tell you. Was some place in my logic connection where I was like, oh yeah, like North Vietnam is like my main, well, what's the climate region technically?
Probably AM or AF for Hanoi.
CWA.
Is it CWA in Hanoi?
Yeah. So that's why.
Right.
That must be why because I was looking at things that were CWA. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I did like the tropical vibe of it. I really liked the North Vietnam in the, not necessarily from a cultural perspective, but like from a climate, mountains, like there's a lot of inspiration I'm pulling from that, and just looking at videos of that. I've watched a few really interesting non-English movies set in North Vietnam, like historical ones that I just like. I don't know. That's kind of where the vibe for all of that is coming from. But
oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking of South Vietnam when I was thinking about the climate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's very like mountainous.
Yeah, I feel like they're a kilometer up, which is probably why they are cold. Let me check my feeling.
Okay.
Yes, 1,296 meters. So it's probably about 6 degrees cooler in Hanoi than it is at sea level.
Right.
Which would mean, what's their, they don't have a good, oh, here we go. Daily mean 16 in January and 29 in July. So in January, that would be 24 at sea level. And in July, that would be about 35. So yes, if they were at sea level, it would be an AW.
Yeah, which makes sense because like looking at a Köppen map of all of Vietnam, like everything other than the North Vietnam chunk, like that whole long strip of Central and South Vietnam is all very tropical, all AM, AF, a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, when I think of that region, that's what I'm thinking of, the like AFAM, AW kind of areas.
Yeah.
So that makes a good deal of sense as to why I was thinking that.
Yeah. So it's tropical, but it's not like super duper like. Well, I mean, would you even call CWA? I mean, I know it's not technically tropical.
I mean, sure.
Yeah, it's not temperate.
Well, you're in the tropics,
yeah.
So it is tropical.
Yeah.
And so it's tropical because it's in the tropics.
Right.
And I mean, it's not. It doesn't get, and if I go back to the climate data, like, it gets down to 16.6. So if it tropical and an A climate is where no monthly mean temperature falls below 18.
Okay.
So, it's close enough.
Yeah.
But they do have it.
Um,
Oh yeah, so they've got 20 millimeters in December of
hmm.
rain, and in August there's 300. But it starts a bit more gradually, with April getting 91, and then May getting 185, and then it starts getting into the 200s in summer proper. So
Right.
yeah, but your situation at 43, you'd probably be much cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think, do I have the ITCC? Hold on.
Greg, old pilot's trick: temperature drops by 2 degrees centigrade by 1,000-foot rise in altitude in theory. Yeah, how I was taught in my geography classes is it's 6.5 degrees for every kilometer. And then when I worked with Edgar, we just made it every kilometer is 6 degrees. Humidity changes that. So, if you, and like the air pressure, so like a lower pressure area, and you probably have a slower drop, in a higher pressure area, it can become colder. So anywhere between 4 degrees and 10 or more degrees, like in Antarctica over the glaciers. It is not a 6 degree or 6.5 degrees for every kilometer. It's much the temperature drops off much faster than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is approximately the same. Yeah, it is a good trick.
So I wonder. I'm looking at some maps of. I'm trying to figure out, because I know like generally how I can show like, because I want there to be some irrigated, like more intensively, yeah, uh, irrigated and oh my gosh, I can't remember the word, but like not developed, but like agricultured. I don't know. There's a word, I can't remember what it is, but like the paddy fields up here this close to the city. Like I like the idea of like up here at being a lot more intensive, and then maybe like down here a little bit further away from the city having more of the less intensive ones that
Mm-hmm.
would have just been like based off the rainfall. It would have been like fine to, yes, I did just intentionally break the spillway because I'm thinking about how I will indicate the irrigation for the paddy fields.
It's magic. The water teleports.
Yeah, I mean, I could just do that, but um,
Well, so you could do like the very like elaborate terracing where they kind of flatten it and make it curve with
mm,
um, with the changes in elevation.
mm,
Uh, but depending on how smooth the change in elevation is, you could also just do it in like rectangles or squares or lines or whatever.
yeah,
Like there's no your spillway though. What you could do is kind of make it run a little parallel with the change in elevation, and then bring it pretty much straight southwest down to join up with the main river,
mm,
because it would be better following the steepest changes in elevation. So if you linked it up, further to the east, kind of before the two trees you have on the north bank.
give me 1 second to make sure I'm on the right layer. Okay, so come here. So the two trees. So like, okay, so like right behind where I have the little like tree farm.
Well, where you have on the north bank of your main southern river, you've got two little trees near a wall.
Here.
Yes, if you go just a little west of that, you can draw your spillway, and then you can kind of bring it at like, I don't know, like a 50-degree angle, um, minus 50-degree angle. You could, sorry, yeah, there, yeah, do that. That's useful.
Uh, is that it? No, that's 90
That's a
degrees.
little sharp. That's closer to 45. But yeah, you can just do kind of like that, and you can bring it up this elevation, uh, up the contour to, and yeah, like that. Oop.
on the struggle bus here.
We have to fix the spillway. Everyone's very invested.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like that
and
angle?
yes, and then bring it up a little, following the same angle, bring it up a little bit further north. Boom, perfect. And then link it up with what you have there. There we go. That's lovely.
Great. I realize I've made it a little bit thin.
Oh, that's great.
It's okay.
And if it floods as it's going down,
yeah,
you'll have rice fields and you'll have trees.
Mm.
The trees will, soak up a lot of moisture. It's fine if the rice fields flood. So,
right.
I mean, people have to go out and fix them and stuff, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Okay. And then on to the northeast, you have your stream there, and then to the southwest, you have your other tributary, and then your main river. So the spillway is very well contained.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. Yeah, I like that. Ooh, okay.
I said 50 degrees. You gave me 4.5 degrees. How dare you? Yeah, precisely. And now we fixed the spillway. So
yeah, it's all great now. It's perfect.
It's all perfect.
yeah, because I think I can always I feel like, so if I do the less intensive ones down here, they'll just be kind of smaller. What were you saying, half or quarter mile?
Oh, I was saying acres.
Acres.
Yeah.
Okay. What on earth is an acre?
What was a quarter acre? You can make them smaller than that, but a quarter acre is I don't know, it's like a lot for a house.
Okay. So yeah. So sort of like what I have down here.
Yeah, if you zoom in, see that little green strip kind of in the northwest kind of plot. In the northwest, you've got this. You're zooming in. It's kind of, there's a little green rectangle. If you move your cursor, it's where the pink buildings are.
Yeah.
Up. It's the one in the top left-hand corner.
This one?
Nope, just to the left. Yeah, that guy. That would be a good size.
Okay.
So let me. Which green strip? Yeah.
I know. I'm like, they're all green rectangles.
So a quarter, half acre. Something small.
Okay.
And and that could be a decent amount for one. Yeah. For a couple people to deal with throughout the year.
Yeah, and then I could have the more intensive ones up here could be.
And what I mean by intensive is when we think of the hillsides that are
just the terrace,
terraced, and they're these long strips, and they flatten out the land, and that is what I would say is very intensive, because the actual infrastructural labor that goes into building and maintaining those terraces is immense. Right. But if you have these little square plots, and you have little mounds between them, and you control the flow of water through them and stuff, that's a little bit easier to kind of deal with. So the actual labor isn't as intense as maintaining those hillside situations.
Yeah, which I mostly just want to have some, because I want to draw them, and I think it'd be cool. And I know there's going to be some of those slightly higher up in the in another region, so I want to draw those in. But I feel like for the majority of it, it would be fine with the size of this, doing the more smaller plot based ones that they can manage on their own.
Is it needed for the current population? Well, it's not really about. It's about turning marginal land into farmable land. So marginal land, when we think about agriculture, is the kinds of land that aren't readily farmable. So, if we think about, in a European context, like farming wheat, you want to take a field of grass and get rid of all the grass and then plant wheat, which is the grass we like. If there's a rocky area, well, that's marginal, right? Like you can't really plant grass on an area. You can't plant wheat in an area that has a lot of rocks and gravel and stuff. If the hill is too steep, you can't really plant wheat there because it's, kind of a pain to deal with. So the rice cultivator's solution to this is to just clear everything and make it level and turn all marginal land into rice cultivating land. In Europe and in other places, they did it differently, where they decided that they were going to have cows and stuff, and the cows can graze on the marginal land. In places where they cultivate rice, they did not go as hard towards, like pastoralism in the same way. And that's an interesting thing about East Asia, in particularly, like thinking about China, where the north of China, where a lot of this early state formation occurred, is actually a wheat producing area, and that's the area where also a lot of horses and stuff came from. So there were very different agricultural priorities for the north and the south, because like horses were exceptionally important to various Chinese dynasties. They went out of their way to conquer and invade places to go take their horses. Gravelly soil, is that good for grapes? Yeah, it's good for some grapes, because you don't want to flood them. That's because they're used to like a Mediterranean climate. So when I used to live out east in the Niagara region or whatever, having a sandy soil that didn't hold on to moisture as much was very useful for growing grapes in like the Niagara region and that kind of thing. Because while the grapes do like being watered, they do not like being in overly wet soil.
It doesn't help like concentrate the like flavors a lot, like to have those kind of droughts where like the grapes don't get super big and so all the flavors super concentrated and stuff.
Yeah. And there's actually that also happens with other plants. So I forget the name offhand, but there's a plant in continental British Columbia where if you have it on the coast, indigenous peoples would use it as a medicine. But the same plant in the interior, where it's drier, it would seen as a poison, because in the drier region it would concentrate the chemicals that made it a useful medicine to such a degree that it became a useful poison. So that holds true in a lot of cases, where if you have a drier environment, then the plant is going to focus more sugars and stuff into the fruit, because the larger you make the fruit, the more surface area it has, so the more moisture can escape. So having smaller grapes and berries and stuff is useful in a more arid climate, unless you have like a very thick skin or something like that, like certain cactus fruits and stuff. Yeah, that's why citrus fruits grow really well in hot semi-arid climates and stuff too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, gravelly soil, good for grapes.
I feel like this looks so stupid.
You may want to give them a bit more of like a curve to go with.
Because they're very straight lines right now.
Hey, they could do that though.
Yeah, like, I feel like it bless the vibe though.
Yeah, the vibe is we're gonna make these straight lines because we don't want to curve these things. Like if we're gonna go flatten the side of our, if we're gonna flatten the side of our hill, why flatten it in like a weird way?
A little bit of something going on there. I feel like this is immensely huge. Like,
well, you got a lot of people. Yeah. That's been an issue in popular media depicting like fantasy cities and stuff like that, where
Oh,
like if you look at just thinking of Wheel of Time, like when they go to the the big city in Wheel of Time in the first season,
right.
um, it's like a big castle and it's kind of straddling a river. It's on an island in the middle, and there
Oh,
doesn't
Tarvalon.
Tarvalon, and there's like it's in the middle of a forest. I was like,
Yeah,
where are they getting all their food? Where are the fields? Where's the wheat?
right.
And this is an issue in Game of Thrones, the TV show as well, and I think in the books too, where it's like where I know in Wheel of Time and Tarvalone, it's surrounded by like farms and stuff. So like
Mm,
Robert Jordan is aware of that in the books, but it's not translated to the screen.
show.
And the same thing with Lord of the Rings as well, where like Minas Tirith, the Pelennor fields in the books are described as like the breadbasket of Gondor. And they have little villages and markets, and they've got pastures and orchards and stuff. But in the movies, it's just flat.
Right.
Um, there's a similar thing with Edoras as well, and then in Game of Thrones too. Like you've got Winterfell. Like there's nothing there. Like
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see like lots of like goats and like other stuff. You don't see them growing like potatoes or oats or whatever. Like there's nothing on screen to show like where they're getting their food from. And for oh, I didn't finish the books, and when I read them, it would have been like a decade ago when I read the couple that were out at the time.
Right.
Um, the main city where the Baratheons Lannisters live, where they govern from.
Oh, that place.
Not Casterly Rock. That's the
No.
Lannisters. I
Yeah.
cannot, for the life of me, Game of Thrones capital.
Keep.
King's Landing.
King's Landing. There you go. It's got
King's
King's
Landing is surrounded by, again, nothing.
Mm,
Like they have no fields. Like they have no farms. They have, it's just a city. Winterfell is medieval Amazon Prime, obviously. Yeah, they're ordering like 10-pound bags of potatoes by the truckload.
yeah.
There's an incredibly difficult problem of moving all the food from the south where the Tyrells live to feed everybody. That's the only
Mm,
place where they like have farms. Apparently, it's where the
mm.
Martells live.
Ooh,
Reminder
saving.
to save. Yeah.
Saving.
Um. So yeah, like when we're thinking about. It's really important to have a lot of agriculture near a city because you have a large population there that you need to support, and because in a city, the kind of the administrative benefit of having a city is you have a bunch of people who are specializing in things that aren't agriculture, so they can spend their time doing that. Because in other societal situations, like if you live in an agricultural village, you know, everybody is a farmer, but they're also other stuff, right? Like they're
Right.
also,
Right.
they may also be making nails. They may also be, doing small like artisanal mining. They may be, like they're going to be making their own rope. They're going to be making their own houses. They're going to be doing all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you're in a city, then you can have group of people making food and cheese. Yeah, they're going to be making cheese. Very important.
Yeah.
But in the city, you're going to have someone who they just make rope all the time, and they turn that rope into nets all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they can use, they can be supported through that, either through currency or through redistributive organizations like kin and stuff like that. They can be supported to do that. But yeah, you do need a lot of food there in order for that to happen, and you need it to be organized in such a way that a smaller number of people can make a larger amount of food.
Right.
So it may seem like a lot, but I think our ideas of pre-industrial agriculture and the land use is very skewed from media that we've seen of like the medieval period and stuff like that.
Right.
Like the next time you watch a show that's set in the medieval period and they go to a castle, like see how much of it is surrounded by agriculture.
Right.
and for like Lord of the Rings and stuff, I understand that, like the valley outside of the Deeping Wall and the Hornburg is empty, and why the Pelennor Fields is just a field, because they have to have these huge battles. And
Right.
even though in the books the battles are very complicated because they are charging through fields and farms and orchards and stuff, Jackson wants to communicate certain gravitas and movement so you can understand the battle, because a lot of shows don't do battles very good.
Yeah. Which
Full
is,
Metal Shogun.
unfortunate, where it would be the most useful to be able to visualize them.
Yeah, yeah. And and some authors are better than at that than others. Like Tolkien was a medievalist, so he did a good job of it. Robert Jordan did a decent job of it. I remember from when I read a couple of the Real Time books.
Yeah.
Martin didn't do a particularly good job of that, but that's not new.
Yeah. I feel like this looks better. Probably actually finish that later, but
yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like if I get a few of those kind of like up in this like upper hill region where they are doing a lot of like water control anyway, like it kind of makes sense that they do something more intensive if they already are.
Yeah, for sure.
Doing all that.
And it's very easy. Like you just kind of dig an irrigation trench at the top of that contour line, and then you funnel it into the rice plots at the top, and yeah, there you go. You've got your
filter its way down.
Yeah, it'll filter its way down.
Mm-hmm. Are those rice paddies? Yes. These ones here are rice paddies. They're partially done rice paddies.
Is there a reason they're not going all the way to the spillway?
No.
Oh, okay. You probably want them on either side. Yeah, they probably want them on both sides.
Let's do it. Yeah, we'll bring that. Make this a little bit bigger.
Yeah. And then over map week, I've been working on my prehistoric culture maps.
Ooh.
So I've been thinking about, and I've been thinking about these for a while, but having or have a canal from the spillway. Yep. Yeah, irrigation canals and stuff can come off the spillway too.
Mm-hmm.
Serves double duty.
Yeah.
And if there's, and if there's a flood on the this tributary here and the irrigation canals start to flood, then the spillway's there too. So
right.
The spillway is very, very infrastructurally important.
Right.
Maybe there's a spirit of the spillway. Everyone wants to keep the spillway spirit happy.
Yeah.
That'd be very Roman of them. What was I saying? Yeah, so like the various material cultures. So thinking about the and their spread from kind of the last glacial maximum in the project until when the actual so-called history of the project starts.
Right.
And then I've did a bit of the paleoclimate as well.
I love some paleoclimate.
Well, it's just doing the climate maps, but changing the parameters a little bit and seeing how the deserts open up and change and shift north and south. Glaciers, yes, having glaciers.
My favorite thing.
Yeah. And just to see how it would filter and move different culture groups as, land, as the sea level changes and as land becomes available, and then as, that pushes, and as the sea level changes when it gets cold, more land's available. And then when the glaciers start to melt, less land is available. The people who live there have to go somewhere else, and have their migrations push other people away. And and because the world kind of straddles around the equator a bit, you have a handful of important material cultures that are broken up
Mhm.
by the tropical seas that are there. So you've got people in the north who are who descend from the same material culture as the people from the south.
Right.
It also limits the number of like proto languages I make.
Which is, probably helpful.
Probably helpful. Have you thought about rocks? Yeah, sure. I've thought about rocks.
Oh my gosh. Edgar's cracking me up with his dissing of rocks.
I just think it's just not the most exciting thing. But like I thought about rocks because I do have a couple of regions that are very heavily underground citied, so I wanted that
Mhm.
to be a thing that they did.
Right.
And you need softer volcanic rock in order to do that.
Right.
Um, and then I was also so thinking about that kind of stuff. And when a glacier scrapes something clean, because I've lived near the Canadian Shield, which is pretty big shield. Um, when we think about how the population of Canada is distributed, it's part of that is because there's the shield there, and there's not much sediment that is very useful for agriculture, or at least the kind of agricultural systems that European settlers use. So, uh, it's like, oh, a lot of Canadians live near the Great Lakes and then near the border with the US, besides the people who are, further north in BC and Alberta. Um,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, is it because of the pull of the United States or something? And it's like, no, it's just where the dirt is. We
Right.
we want good dirt for our agriculture, and a lot of Canada has a lot of rocks there.
Mhm. Not much
Yeah.
you can do with planting things in rocks.
Yeah, things don't like to grow that much in rocks,
Yeah, unfortunately, because
unfortunately. And in the best place to grow, wheat agriculture is places where there were extensive, grass, extensive grass fields and stuff. So the
Mhm.
prairies became good places to plant wheat because the prairies were grass.
Right.
Yeah. Did I say rocks? I did say rocks. Rocks, rock.
I know they do. They do. Oh my gosh,
Uh,
man. At some point, I'm gonna do a world building project that is just glaciers, and all we're gonna do is like microclimates of glaciated regions, and it's all gonna be glaciated land masses and landforms, and that is literally all anything is going to be.
Because I think something that would be interesting is that like all of the land masses are cool. Like if you have maybe in one hemisphere you have a just like a polar landmass, and it
Mm,
doesn't go any further equatorward than like I don't know 60 or like 50 degrees latitude.
right, right,
So,
yeah.
and the glacier just sort of extends all the way down. So you just have like, all this fjording and stuff and people living in these, microclimates in the shadow of the glacier. And then in the south,
Uh,
you could have, in the other hemisphere, you could have like smaller land masses, they're kind of broken up a bit more.
mhm,
But, they are also glaciated or very recently glaciated. So they have to deal
right,
with maybe
right.
not ice caps, but like
Ooh,
tundra.
right. I feel like that would be so much fun. I already have one weird world building project, which is my weird pillar one that I'm gonna do next. But
Pillar world. Yeah.
after Pillar World,
After pillar world.
Glacier World.
Mesa world.
Yes. Yes. It'll be fun. I feel
That'd
like the maps would be so sad though. Like they'd be glorious, but they'd all just be like shades of like white.
they'd be gray. They'd be gray and white.
Gray. Maybe I could like get away with some like light purples. Bring some real color in there.
Maybe maybe there's kind of like lichen or something that's pink that lives on top of the glaciers.
Yeah, yeah.
There you
We could
go.
do some like weird stuff.
And they turn off during the winter, and then they turn back on during the summer.
Mhm. Could be good. It could be good.
Because like 24 hours of sunlight, that would be pretty fun for lichen. The
Yeah.
plankton like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'd be into that then. It could be a choice. Oh my goodness. Blue, purple, gray, white, black. Yeah, like I could make it work. It would definitely be like it'd be pretty cool, it'd be cool. We'd like come up with some weird stuff. I don't know. I haven't thought about it too much other than just being like, "Ooh, glaciers. Ooh, ice sheets. Ooh, all the you know, yeah, 50 shades of just white. 50 shades of snow, basically. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be a choice. I feel like,
Mhm.
yeah, it would be interesting, especially if I tried to do. Oh, that's the wrong one. If I tried to do some sort of history with like how the different glaciers and ice sheets like interacted and formed and split apart, like you do your plate tectonics, but then I do
And
like my glacier ice sheet tectonics.
oh, your glaciology with all the different
Yeah,
ice
like oh yeah,
fields and stuff, how they
these
flow
sheets
into each
split
other.
here and these moved in this direction and this is the directions these ice sheets flow and like I
And
could get
they
into it. Maybe
come
that's the
together.
only reason I'll use Blender is so that I can chart the movement of my ice sheets.
Hey. Yeah, and we in first year physical geography, I think the final project is students have to pick a glacier and they have to use old photos and they have to compare how much the glaciers receded.
Ooh.
So like how far the toe of the glacier has moved back, and they also like so a lot of glaciers in BC are part of like ice fields and stuff. So sometimes the glaciers like flow together,
Oh, okay.
and you can see like the tell and the debris on the side, and that's all very fun. So yeah, the students have to go through that process and track it. So that is very excited for me. I think they studied something like this for the Europa moon. Maybe
Hmm.
I would not know.
I have to. Ooh, saving.
Yeah,
I'll have to look into that because that would be very interesting. Also, just a 1 hour reminder. Yes, this is
yeah.
officially over in no later than 1 hour. Although
Mhm.
no promises we'll make it that far, but maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Um, but oh yeah, that would definitely be yeah, ice plate tectonics or I mean it's glaciation, but I feel like there's got to be a cool word for specifically the movement of it, or maybe we can make one up. They'd love that. Who was it? I think it was Edgar who said he tried to talk to a glaciologist once and it didn't go well for him, but
Yeah.
we could have better luck. We could find someone.
Well, I think there is, um, yeah, like the well on Europa you do have, I guess cryo
Ooh.
tectonics or whatever because the uh, um, there's an ice shell that's cold and brittle,
Mm.
like the outer shell. You have a convecting portion of the ice shell, and then you have a liquid ocean.
Oh.
And you have situations where the two pieces of ice shell collide with one another, and you do have ice shells that subduct under the other ice shells, and they produce like cryo lavas and stuff. Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah.
I think I need to make that habitable. I don't know how, but
I don't. Yeah, maybe the people come from somewhere else.
yeah. Where they're just identical to humans in every way other than they can just totally live there.
Yeah.
Only difference.
Well, maybe they're maybe more of a sci-fi setting where they live in little little outposts and they go outside wearing um space like Europa suits, I guess.
Mm. I don't I don't like tech like I don't know why. Like I enjoy occasionally reading and occasionally watching shows, but like most of the shows that I even watch that are like sci-fi tend to be like we used to know all the things sci-fi, but like I love Firefly where it's like space western.
What is
Um
Europa report? Europa report. That looks cool.
oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
space. Yeah, yeah, Firefly. I think
Mhm.
I've watched a couple of Firefly episodes.
Yeah. I love
I like.
Firefly.
Well, I think you could run it in a similar way where it's like, yeah, these people live in, these complex technological systems, but they don't treat it as like, science and technology and engineering and stuff. They treat it as like ritualized processes.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, something
okay,
weird like that.
oh no, there's a red light. In order to do that, we have to go here. We have to do this dance. We have to
Right.
use this incense. And then we have to like turn these levers and stuff in this particular order to appease, the shell we live in. And then the
Right.
light will stop. And then it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, well, they're doing the right stuff, but they're not doing it for, you know, they're doing it because it works, not necessarily because
Right.
um
Oh my gosh. Where they think
they,
it's magic or something.
well, yeah, it could be like a religious thing, you
Yeah.
know.
I could
Um
maybe get behind that.
or like, when like people blow in like their Nintendo cartridges
Mm.
because they want their like video games to work, or like you like shine the disc on your t-shirt or whatever.
Or blowing your dice and
Yeah, it's like it's just, that people just kind of do that stuff.
yeah.
Hot springs like Iceland that could facilitate some longer lived civilization along with
Oh.
Eskimos. Well, we wouldn't, Inuit, but
Yeah, it could be interesting to do something like that at some point with just like ice tectonics. Could certainly be a choice. Um why did I make this so tiny? Gonna barely be able to see these like at all. Eh. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I feel like over here I might have like some little segments of like not slums, but like a little bit more of that in this region back when maybe the city was, a little smaller and they had these really tiny little buildings and little tiny little alleyways, and that has kept up like that because richer people don't want to live in that cramped of a section of the city.
mm-hmm.
And then maybe in other reasons I've had it pushed out more outside of the actual walls.
They want a lawn and a garage and
Mm-hmm. All the fancy stuff.
yeah,
Like that would.
they don't want to live in a townhouse.
Yeah. Especially these super tiny ones.
Luxury slums, like apartment buildings.
Yeah.
Luxury slums.
Yeah. Ooh, trying to make this fit here.
And for a very cool city building, maybe there's the Kithamar trilogy. The second book has come out, and it is by Daniel Abraham. The first book is Age of Ash. The second one is Blade of Dream. And Daniel Abraham has also done other series I really enjoy, like the Long Price Quartet. But his recent series, the Kithamar series, is set in the city of Kithamar, and the trilogy follows one story, but each book is the same series of events from the perspective of different characters.
Oh, that's cool.
So, there's a character you meet once or twice in the first book, and in the second book, you get to see that entire series of events from their perspective. And then you're like, oh, that's why they were there. Oh, that's why that happened. So it kind of like bridges those things together. And what's neat is that each character and each kind of lives in a different part of the city. And the history of the city and the spirit of the city are like very important parts of the story. And so, each neighborhood kind of has its own character, like each district and stuff. And I thought that was a very cool world building that's, relevant to this particular bit.
Right. How do you spell the?
Kithamar?
Yeah.
Kithamar.
I'm gonna find it.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Ooh, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna add that to my list.
He also did like an epic fantasy series called The Daggering Coin, where it kind of follows like one of the main protagonists of that series is a banker.
Mm.
So it's like fantasy economics and political economy, while evil spiders want to take over the world. There's also dragons. One of the few things I've read recently that has dragons in it.
You do like dragons.
And I believe Daniel Abraham is also half of James S.A. Corey.
Oh.
Who did those like the Belter books. What are those called?
Yeah.
Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank. Yeah.
Okay.
What are their The Expanse. Yeah, so they did the Expanse series. And I think they're doing something else now too. But the Expanse was quite cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a cool one. I have so many things on my list that I need to read. Although I will say, it's nice when you put things on my list that are fiction and not nonfiction, because my nonfiction list right now is almost longer than my fiction list.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
So it's good. It's good.
Did you add the Priests and Programmers one to it as well?
I did. That's on the list now.
That's a very good one. And it's because as far as nonfiction goes, I mean, some of the more like survey ones that focus on a theme, like the Y-Men, or again, what was one of the other ones I recommended? The Creation of Inequality, or The Great Leveler, or The Decline and Rise of Democracy, or something like that. Yeah, so like those are useful to give like a kind of a broad understanding of things and how they change over time, and looking at how people have thought about these things over time. But getting these like very specific studies, whether they're ethnographies or, whether these sort of like historical changes over a culture are useful, because they, like, those deep dives get you thinking about stuff in a very specific way, but they also like allow you to generalize out. So it's like, oh, this is a very interesting, cultural or social interaction or organization. What would that look like in a different, a different situation?
Right.
Just started reading Lies of Locke Lamora. Lies of Locke Lamora is good.
Yeah, I haven't. It's been on my list for a long time. I know a lot of people who that's like super high up on their list of recommendations, and somehow just hasn't gotten to be something I've picked up yet. But
yeah, I think there's 3 books. There's Thieves of Evelyn, Lies of Locke Lamora, or something of Evelyn. Maybe Evelyn's supposed to be the 4th one. Maybe there's Republic of Thieves, Lies of Locke Lamora, and then Red Sails or something.
Red Seas Under Red Skies?
There we go.
Oh, this looks like there's book 1, book 2. There's 4 book 3s. A book 4, a book 5, a 6, a 7.
I believe there's only 3 published.
Okay, I think I'm seeing. Oh yeah, that makes sense based off the number of reviews. They've made things for them on Goodreads, but they're not published yet.
Yeah. So yeah, for Gentlemen, it's the Republic of Thieves. I was right about that one, and then Red Seas Under Red Skies. Those are the ones that are out. But I read them during my undergrad, and that ended like a dozen years ago. So I think the last one must have come out 2012, 2013, and then the author hasn't published another book. I think it was like mental health reasons or something reasonable, but it's, I'm probably not returning to that series. It's just been too long.
Yeah, that's fair. Wait, the Lies of Loch Lamora is the one with the fun heist, or do they all have fun heists?
They
Or
all have fun heists.
they all have fun heists. We've been because we're both doing our heist books. We've been leaning into the. We need to find some good movies. We have a couple ones we want to watch next weekend, but just to get the heist vibes going.
Mm-hmm.
Might have to read something in advance too, just to really
get
in the mood for heistas. Ooh, save.
Oh, my wife wanted to watch Ocean's 11 or something like that.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Very heisty.
Yeah, it's because one of the things, and Bill and I have both been looking at this, but one of the things that when Brandon Sanderson talks about heists, he's sort of divided the types of heists into like your two big tropes of ways of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Is you have your one style where there's one person that sort of knows what the plan is the whole time, but like you sort of follow an underdog and you don't actually know what the plan is or what's going to happen. So like you think it's failing until at the end everything goes perfectly because it was like the super secret, like, oh yeah, this was the plan all along.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, it's failed. But we tricked them and it didn't actually fail. Yeah, like Ocean's 11. Yeah.
Right. So there's that one, and then there's the other side where, you come up, bring all these people together, and you come up with all of these solutions to all these different problems, and then you have this big twist where it's like, oh no, this problem isn't what we thought it is, and our plan won't work. But then they realize, oh, we can reuse all these little things we've spent the whole book putting together in different ways to solve the new problem, and then solve it that way.
I don't know. I'm a fan of the other one, like Hell or High Water or something like that, where you just show up with a gun and you take the money. Very very quick heist.
Right.
It's like, and I think when I play like role playing games and stuff like that, I think from Shadowrun there is a distinction between Pink Mohawk Shadowrun games and Black Trenchcoat. And in Pink Mohawk Shadowrun games, you just lean into all the cyberpunk stuff. Like you just show up with a rocket launcher and you're cool and kicking ass with neon lights. But in a Black Trenchcoat game, it's all about like, neo noir, solving all those kinds of problems and stuff. So like the cool parts of a fun heist movie for me is like doing all this stuff, like doing all the prep work,
right?
So that the actual heist itself is just everything coming together that they've already done all the work for,
right?
Yeah,
I will say it's kind of hard from a novel perspective, I find, for that kind, just because like a lot of the structures I use, like you want to have like your successes and your failures, and like if it all just works perfectly at the end, it's a little harder for me.
Well, that could be the actual heist itself could be the diminution, right? Like
that's true. Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, we need to flip one of the bank people in order to do the heist. Getting that guy to flip could be like one of the big climaxes, and or the other fun heist movie is the heist has already happened, and they are so they're so fucked. Like they need to get rid of the stuff. They need to get the hell out of there. Somebody's been shot.
Right, dealing with the aftermath of it all.
I think there's one of those Boston movies that's like that. Like Mackie Mac and what's his name did. Sounds like a movie I've seen recently.
Sounds like it could be a thing.
Yeah, it's like the, okay, we've slayed the dragon, now what? Kind of.
Right.
And there's a great, I believe, there's a role-playing game called The Burning Wheel.
Okay.
And it functions quite differently from like Dungeons and Dragons. And it's more about like, there is like a very fun combat system where you decide what you're going to do in advance. And then you don't really know your like, your initiative order, but you don't know what the other people are doing.
Right. Yeah.
So
the chaos.
So there's like, it's very chaotic, which is fun. But then that's also, they also have like a social combat system as well. But like a very fun part of Burning Wheel, I think one of the intro adventures you play is you've slain the dragon. you have the treasure hoard, but each character wants the same thing in the hoard for a different reason,
Mm,
and you have to engage in, social and physical conflict in order to get it.
right.
uh Italian Job. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think
that's
I've
the
seen
other
them.
one.
Yeah, is that the surprise one?
That's the one where it's like you have to reuse all your parts in a new way.
Reuse all your parts in a new way. Okay.
Yeah, that's the Italian Job, and then the Ocean 11s. Ocean 11 is the mastermind had the secret plot that worked perfectly the whole time anyway.
Yeah. I wonder if the
Um,
challenge with the heist isn't that once there's a plan, some of the tension has disappeared, so that there needs to be undermined before the climax. Yeah.
yeah, and I think part of like the place the tension comes from in the Ocean 11 one is that like the person who has the whole plan isn't the person whose point of view you're following. So like you as the viewer don't actually know what the plan is. Like you don't know that everything is going according to plan. You don't know that all these like things that go wrong are the plan.
That's
Um,
the dramatic irony.
right, right. Which again, like is a lot. I mean, I think it's definitely doable. Like it's doable all the time in books. But like if you're following like the underdog is normally who you're following in one of those who like the main character is sort of that new person who doesn't know everything, which if that's your like POV character in a book, like they have a lot less agency, so they tend to be a little bit less interesting to follow, unless you do more like third person, more of a back role where they can sort of see everything that's going on a little bit more. I see that more with it, but if you're getting into like first person or even like a really close third person, you tend to see the other one just because the main
Yeah.
character then has more agency.
Yeah.
Um,
But like, when you're thinking about, because like the actual planning for those movies tends to happen in a montage.
right, the planning montage
There's
in all of these types. That is your beat, your planning montage of
right.
this is impossible.
And for me, it's like, oh, I would want the planning to actually, that is the meat of like,
Mm,
that's where the conflict happens, right? Like if you want
mm,
to, case a place, casing a place and actually like, finding all of the exits and the entrances, charting the people going in and out, like that's not as simple as sitting in your car and watching people, right? Like there's
right.
a, tailing people
Mm,
is a conflict, that's a challenge.
yeah.
So I think a lot of that stuff, if that is made into like, oh, these are conflicts, that's where the tension is. Because if you
Mm,
set everything up, it should go well.
right.
You could always have like a double cross, or it's like, he's like, I can't be at the bank that day because my mother-in-law died, so I have to go to a funeral, and then it's like, shit. So you could still have that. But I think like the planning itself, rather than being a montage. What if the
Yeah.
training of a boxing movie was the main conflict rather than the final fight that Rocky loses?
Right. Right.
um, that seems
Yeah.
ingenious, actually, both so that they get introduced to the setting and have to pick up the mantle. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think Mistborn is that's where he was talking about it from the perspective of where it's actually the Ocean's 11 style where I mean, I don't want to give away the plot of Mistborn, but like your main character is that underdog that's being trained up, and like one of the plots is like sort of this heist type plot where the other person has the whole plan in the end, and then you get this huge twist of what they were actually planning and what was actually
mhm.
going on, but there's enough like subplots that it's all them having to pick up that mantle and take on these new roles and positions and stuff. Like it is there's a reason why that book is popular and why it worked.
Yeah.
Like it definitely.
Oh, for me, that was the best one of the trilogy. I also think
Mhm.
like the reason why that one works so well is that the protagonists are active.
Right. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so like, in Mistborn, the heist is like overthrowing the king.
Mm.
Um, the uh the heist is, and so like that is a very fun, like, or the Dark Lord or whatever it is.
Mm.
So that's a very fun thing. And then the other books, the protagonists are just kind of like reacting to stuff happening to them.
Yeah, I
So
struggled this for the same reason.
yeah, so it really takes away, like he does a really good job like building this like tension and interest and momentum where it's like, oh, I always want to see what happens next. And then in the next two books that kind of fell apart.
Mm.
But and that kind of speaks to some of the weaknesses that we see in, it's like, okay, when we talk about villains, oftentimes in popular media, like in superheroes, right? The villain's the one with the plan. The villain wants to change the world. The villain's doing the interesting stuff.
Right.
Uh, the good guys are just trying to like keep the status quo. Um, and sometimes they succeed in a way that the world breaks a little bit. Uh, and that creates more tension for, the next arc of Marvel stories.
Right.
Um, you know, so like, the giving agency and, making the protagonists the ones who want to change the world and do something in the world is fun. The actual planning does seem like the most fun part of a world building perspective, but not sure how it could be exciting for an audience. Well, like Mission Impossible, like when they want to go stop, a terrorist plot, like most of the movie of a Mission Impossible is them doing that legwork,
Mm.
right? Like they're doing the planning, like they're going to exotic locations and getting in
Yeah.
chases and gunfights and
Right. They're not
hacking,
sitting there just making a plan. It's like you have to
doing it.
gather yeah, you have to gather all of these things or parts or win over these people or like there's all those like pre-work parts of the planning. Like, okay, we have to find a way into the building. Okay, like these are all the problems and like it can be, I think it'd be very fun.
And I think it would work better in a book because, you don't like in a movie just with the time constraint and how you structure it, you
Mm.
just you
Oh,
want it to be wrapped up like that. But in a book you can
bye.
oh, bye Catherine. You can chart it differently. Um
Mm. Yeah, and I
and
think that one of the coolest parts for me when it comes to heist stories is that one of the most important parts of a heist is your heist team. And one of the
yes.
most interesting parts to me of having a heist team is you have this really high stakes thing that they're doing where they all might have slightly different motivations and you need them all to work together.
Yeah.
So like that interpersonal conflict is something that I really enjoy, which is why like in this story where they're heisting upon this temple complex, um, one of the whole main like plots of the book, other than the heist itself, is the group dynamics, and they have so many like social and cultural and like economic differences in between all of them that causes them to just like absolutely hate each other. And so like their conflict is almost just with each other. Which if you like more character driven stories where they're, that's the side of it I really like is just, there's the cool factor of like these people doing these like really cool things because there's experts, which like you get in most heist stories, but also the
Yeah.
like the drama.
Yeah. And I think that's and if you want to like build that tension between the characters, then actually going through the legwork and the actual
Mm.
like making of the plan and ensuring the plan works is, gives you more time to kind of do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um oh yeah, who's Tabby. That's why was it Quentin
Mm.
Tarantino's first movie Reservoir Dogs is so interesting because
Yeah.
they've done a heist
Yeah.
and you get to see the aftermath of all of these criminals kind of falling apart.
Yeah.
And you get little bits of how the heist went through the movie and flashbacks.
Mm.
um so some of the recent movies have been, you know like, yeah, Hateful Eight was kind of boring, and Once Upon a Time Hollywood as well. But Death Proof is awesome. Reservoir Dogs is great.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
Um,
all, I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun.
yeah.
I've been watching like a series of them as I go, and some of them like you can tell. I feel like when that planning aspect of it isn't there too, like it almost turns from the grittiness of a heist story to something that feels more like a superhero show where it's like they just like
Hmm.
swing in and do awesome stuff, and it's like it's cool, but like if you don't have that build up of learning to care about them and why they care for it, because like they're also normally like more morally gray, right, characters where
Yeah.
they're not like I'm gonna save the orphans. They have more complex motivations behind them, and if like you just see them doing this like shady semi-illegal or very illegal stuff, you're just like, well, like okay, cool, they did cool stuff, but like who cares?
Hmm.
And the planning can reveal all of the inner motivation, and then you actually care.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, save. Good call. Everyone here in the chat is like saving me
Good
from losing
saves.
everything. Oh yes, 30 minutes. Although I'm currently frozen, so that's helpful. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
What was I doing? Oh, I've been on the roads layer.
Oh no.
No. Oh no.
Not the rods.
Oh wait, I was drawing roads. No, we're good.
Okay, there you go. Road layer on the roads.
It's okay. It's
okay.
fine.
Yeah. What is? Oh, yeah. And I guess in the last few minutes of this, for the IPA.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Well, like I'm more of like a systems thinker,
Mm-hmm.
and I found the IPA quite useful because when you're like the way that both the vowels and the consonants are broken up to their the pulmonic consonants are broken up
Right.
into their own grids. Like, okay, a dental sound is a sound that your tongue makes when it taps against your teeth, and a stop is an interruption of the air. So,
Right.
right, t, great.
Yeah.
A fricative is when your tongue interrupts it, but not enough to stop the flow of air.
Mm.
So that's and fricatives include sibilants and non-sibilants, but a sibilant is s. But once you like have both the manners and the positions of articulation down, it's even if I don't remember the exact symbol, if somebody is like saying a word to me,
Right.
I can kind of like index it in my head and be like, oh, that's where the sound should be made, or about where the sound should be made.
Right.
Same thing with the vowels, but
Yeah.
there's 3 axes for the vowels.
Yeah. Well, like, so the organizational part of it that you're explaining, like, that's the part that I actually really, really like.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is I just can't remember what the symbols are. It's the like that part of my brain that has struggles with making those connections. Like, I can like what I've done for like myself is I've basically just put all the English letters or English sound groups in that IPA chart for like consonants and stuff, and then I look at that and I'm like, this makes so much sense. And like if you were to say this sound and point to the spot in the grid, I would totally get that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the most of the symbols in the standard IPA grid. Like if you want a bilabial stop, the position of articulation is your lips, bilabial, and then a stop is an interruption of air. If you have an unvoiced, it's a p sound.
Right.
Voiced is a b sound. And what are the symbols for it? P and B. So
well, those ones are easy. Like those ones, like if it's the same sound, it's fine. It's like all the weird symbols that it's like I have the same problem when I try to when I program in Java.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we have other languages that we use for certain things, like we use Kotlin and a few other languages. And because I know it in Java, I struggle. Like I can't add a new set of indexing for the other languages where I have to always map it back to Java to understand it. And it's like I'm in the same spot with the IPA where I'm like, I don't know what these symbols are, and I just can't remember them. I need like flashcards or something.
Well, yeah, that's when I mean for most of what I do, I make an orthography. So, if I have the like the rhotic sound in one of the languages that I've been working on and sharing is the velar fricative, voiced velar fricative. So like the, but like my orthography for that, I just read an R because there's no R sound. That is the R sound.
Right.
It's closer to like a French or a German R sound than
Right.
an English R sound. And so the only place that I need to use the IPA for the voiced velar fricative is in the box that shows all the sounds. Otherwise, I just type the R.
That's
Um,
fair.
so like you can make it easier for yourself.
Yeah.
Positive. I could see the master plan approach being really satisfying if the audience is themselves sitting there and trying to figure it out, like a mystery detective novel rather than feeling post hoc. Yeah, and I think that's a bit of a strength of the detective novel. And I think stuff like, what was it, The Glass Onion, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah, that's so good.
that is very fun. So yeah,
Yeah.
like that stuff. I think what was it? Yeah, and like Sherlock Holmes stories, or like Agatha Christie novels, where
Mm,
they give you all the information you need to deduce it. Um,
right.
you know,
Which to an extent, sometimes like there definitely is an aspect of that in the the Ocean's 11 one where they're trying like you are maybe sort of trying to figure out like even though the main character isn't gonna figure it out, like you're trying to figure out what the actual plan is. I
yeah.
think it's less nice than like detective novels because in detective novels, like if you couldn't have figured it out or like when they reveal it, you're not like, oh, of course. Oh, how did I not see that? Right. That it's sort of a failure and it feels cheated. But
Well, then it's a twist.
right. Right.
Yeah. Um, and like in is Ocean's 11 the one where like they're in the bank vault and then the guys, like the SWAT guys, drop down?
I think
Um,
so. I think so.
yeah,
I
but
think
like
so.
there's nothing before that in the movie really that would allow you to figure that out.
Right. Right.
So in the moment, like I'm sitting there and I was thinking, like, are they the SWAT guys? Did like they like how did that happen, right? And then
Mm,
it's like they are the SWAT guys, and then they do a flashback and they show you how they
mm,
did it. So like they
right.
switched out the camera, like the tape and stuff, and they made the guy think, that they got captured by the SWAT guys.
Right.
So, you're like, oh, that's clever, but that's clever and like that's a fun twist, not that's clever detective
Right.
story.
Right. It's like a twist that you could have figured out versus like a proper like
Yeah.
it came out of nowhere, right? So like
Yeah.
a lot of them you couldn't actually figure out, but like you still have that attempt of that wonder, that question of constantly being like,
Yeah.
"Oh, what are they doing? What's going to happen?" Like you still have that like
Hmm.
even if you can't figure it out that like want to that you get in a mystery detective novel just with
Yeah.
less of the ability to do that, I guess,
And I think
depending on
that's
the story.
and and I think that's one of the issues with that Sherlock TV show that the BBC did,
Mm,
where it was like there was no way that you could have figured a lot of that stuff out.
right.
Maybe there were some like Reddit groups that figured it out through like, working together between seasons as like a group mind. But a lot of the stuff that happened in that show, I was like, well, how would we possibly guess that?
Right. Which is less
um,
fun.
which is less fun.
Mhm.
Like and a lot of the times it doesn't actually change much. Like the twist in the village, like the M Night Shyamalan
Mm.
village, where it's like, oh, they were in the modern. And if you haven't seen the village by this point, I'm sorry, Chad. Um,
Plug your
you know,
ears.
it's like, oh, they were in the modern world the whole time. They're only pretending to live like, you know, Puritans in the 1600s. And that's like, wow, like that actually like changes things. That casts a whole new light on you know what you were watching. Same thing with like Sixth Sense and like the
Mhm.
the the I See Dead People, the twist in that movie, right? Like it just kind of casts like a whole different light on the whole experience or the whole story that you engaged in to such like a like seismatic degree that it's kind of like um like it's like awful in like a wonder kind of way.
Mm. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
true of
it's
a lot of
heavy.
the OG Sherlock stories.
Right.
Perhaps it is. I think it's difficult with my OG Sherlock stories were Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. So I feel like my Sherlock experience is quite different. Um,
Right. Yeah, I feel like it depends,
it certainly depends.
Mhm. Different genre conventions over the years and
Mm,
all of that shenanigans. But
maybe it was my mistake to bring Agatha Christie mind to the Sherlock BBC.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the type of like that is where my husband's brain is. Like he hasn't done it, but he's the type of person that would very much want to like read through it and have whole rooms mapped out of just like connecting all the things and all the clues and try and figure it out like one chapter at a time. And like I could see him doing that.
He wants an ARG. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Which would be, he'd just disappear for a long period of time and I'd be like, where'd he go? I don't know. He reads a little slowly. So it would just take him forever too. But that's okay. He's great. He brought me so much food today.
I know, you've got your food just materializing.
I know, my Uber Eats.
Yeah.
I told him about that and he just gave me a look like, ugh.
We're not recognizing, his labor that contributed to the, your abilities to have the stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining, Emma.
Bye, Emma.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, Uber Eats for the win. And he did bring wine at one point, which I barely finished before the stream with Phil. I was like drinking the last bit of it right before she got on, and it was good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm notoriously the world's slowest wine drinker, which is, always
well, you just have it for longer.
Yeah. Yeah, it can take me like 3 hours to drink a glass sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Which, could be worse. Could be worse things.
Yeah. No, I think for beer, well, I don't know, because my family is more of like a beer drinking family, I guess. So wine is just, it's like, well, that's not very much. That's not even a sleeve. Boom.
Right.
I think like culturally, like, liqueurs and stuff like whiskey and those sorts of things, those are sipping drinks. So, that's how you handle that. But
fair.
The actual like wine, I don't think was very, or champagne or anything. Well, champagne kind of, because that, I guess, but the only time I really drink that's at New Year's, I think, or like something like that. So
right,
it's a bit of like a special drink.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't go out of my way to like get champagne to drink.
No.
But when I want to make pasta or something like that, I'll get a bottle of red wine.
Right.
And I will pour a glass of wine because that's the amount you should have. But the glass of wine will not last very long.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I have only basically had champagne either. Basically, I've only ever had incredibly expensive champagne. Because I had someone that brought it for like a New Year's Eve party, and they were like, "It's like a 400 bottle of champagne or something ridiculous that they brought for some reason," and they let everyone taste some of it, like. And I was like, I will taste a $400 like champagne, like of course, great. And then like I had it at a fancy dinner where it was also probably not that expensive, but like very expensive. So I don't think I could. I just have never tried it outside of that because I'm like, it's gonna be not the same, and I won't be happy.
Wait, people don't drink the bottle of champagne?
The whole bottle of wine at once.
No, yeah, no.
You said the one glass is the right amount.
Yeah, no, I would not drink a whole bottle of wine.
I will say I have drank in a whole. There was a day that happened, and I drank an entire bottle of wine in like 2 hours.
Wow.
And as I'm sure you've noticed, I am not a person that drinks very much very often. It was
quite a time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I may have a beer. Well, no, I usually would have like 2 beers, but I would have that like every few days.
Right.
So that's certainly not bordering on alcohol abuse. I think if somebody just, downed a bottle of wine in, 15 minutes, that'd be a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Though
Well, I
there's
think
like,
he's saying drinking so little or ignoring it for 3 hours is alcohol abuse.
oh, you're abusing the alcohol by not drinking it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
We're
yeah, for
not being
sure.
abused by the alcohol. The alcohol is being abused by us.
Yeah, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a pecan liqueur um, in the cabinet that is very enjoyable that I like adding to like decaf and stuff like that, or mixed drinks and whatnot. I did catch up.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I'm imagining it sitting in there scared, like, or like, oh, you don't want me?
Living in fear.
Yeah. When's he gonna come back?
I keep buying bottles of sherry for that purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, like I have these really cute little sherry glasses. They look like
Yeah.
little tiny mini, like super round, like wine glasses, and they're precious. And I
Mm-hmm.
just want to drink sherry in them, but I don't actually like sherry that much. I'll like buy a
Mm-hmm.
bottle of sherry, have a little bit, and I'm like, no, this isn't super great, and then I'll go back and like, I don't know. By the time I get around to drinking like 2 glasses of it, like the sherry's gone bad, which
You should drink port. There's your.
I had port. I have to look into that. I feel like I have to have had port at some point.
Yeah.
I'm sure. But it's probably been either only expensive port or it's been so long that I don't even remember it.
Yeah.
But I think
I
my
think.
family's more like white wine drinkers. So like me being
Mm,
exposed to red wine has been I don't want to say a new thing as an adult because
yeah.
you drink alcohol as an adult, of course, only. But
Mm-hmm.
my more recent adulthood.
Yeah. Well, and I like what is it? Vermouth.
Mm,
Like, yeah, like I guess if you don't like fortified wine, like, then you probably
mm,
wouldn't like port or other stuff like that.
right.
Yeah. Brandy, port, sherry, yeah. Well, usually it's the brandy is the liquor that's used to fortify the wine.
Mm, right.
Brandy's nice though.
What do I want?
And that's a very important part of world building. Do you drink Glühwein in the winter? Yes, I do. I certainly do.
I don't even know what that is.
Glühwein is mulled wine. So you have,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I'm vaguely familiar.
My dad's half German, and he spent his childhood growing up in Germany. So we do a lot
Oh,
of German things. Also,
fair.
how I know how to pronounce Erlkönig, right? So
I was gonna say, I
Munich.
was like, how quickly you pronounce that in such a seemingly perfect way. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And I did German school as a kid. We sang O Tannenbaum and dressed up
Oh,
like, yeah, Oh Christmas Tree. Yeah.
fair. I did
And
not
then
learn much German at all. I did Spanish in school.
yeah, we do French in school, and then I did Latin and a bunch of other stuff in university, but
Mm,
growing up it was like French and German and English.
right. We're getting so close. We're getting so close.
And I'm going to bounce
Okay.
to get ready for this evening because it is, of course, 4:48 p.m. for me.
Oh my gosh. It was safe. Okay. There we go.
Yep, 10-minute mark. So yeah,
Yes.
thanks
Well,
for having
thank
me
you
on
for
the
hanging
stream
out.
again. I feel
It's
like
been fun.
we did a lot of important stuff in the first hour, and then we just were kind of
Rambling and drawing little squares.
bullshitting. Yeah, just drawing little squares.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But look how many more squares there are.
there's so many more squares, and you made a lot
Yeah.
of squares when you did your rice fields.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. We've done many of the things.
Oh well, those are more like squiggly rectangles.
It's fine.
Thank you
It's
both
fine.
for being here. We appreciate it. Yeah. Everyone as they said bye. That was good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if there was next time, um, we could figure out streams that kind of aligned with people's various interests and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel
because
like that
I
would be a
mean,
lot of fun.
yeah, because well, I have a lot to say about certain things. Um, other stuff doesn't really wouldn't have as much input. So if it's
Right.
like if you did if you had a conlanging stream and you had conlangery on, or
Right, which would be
Biblaridian
crazy.
on, or if we wanted to talk about conlanging or something, then that
Mm,
would be more specific. And if you're like, oh, we're going to do culture building or
mm,
whatever, then I could do the
right,
culture building stuff.
right.
Yeah, that could be, and maybe we could figure out a way to include like more directed chat questions and stuff like that.
Mhm. Right, which would be something fun, like something beyond just doing like a personal project, which my whole point of doing this was like I need to get some progress made on my personal project, but it could be interesting to do something you know, a little bit more both maybe doing some stuff on stream or multiple people doing similar things on stream and flipping between it and then like having a topic where chat asks questions and all the people doing it on the stream ask questions. Then you have like some resident experts or something. Like
Yeah,
could be a vibe.
or like a festival of world building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would
And
be fun.
Danny says, thank y'all. Also, thanks for sharing. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, I know I heard yesterday, I think, was it yesterday? I think you and Edgar were talking. It's like, oh, we're not experts. We don't really know what we're doing here. And I think on the one hand, people's world building processes for people who are actually like in the practice of doing it are very interesting to share. So like other people can learn and figure it out. A
Mm,
lot of people when they come to world building that I've seen, they're like, oh, what do I do?
right. Right.
So like that's a very important part of it. But then there are other folks like Nikolai and myself who, you know, have degrees in relevant fields
Mm,
and who can, provide yeah, who can provide that expertise. And
right.
for yourself and for Edgar, like it
Mm,
in your videos, that stuff does come through
mm,
from folks like Nikolai and myself. So
mm.
which
Yeah,
is always
it's
nice.
very great. We're lucky to have access to people such as thyself.
Yeah, so that's so that'd be quite fun.
Mm,
And we also covered a lot of topics. Talking about spillways and
mm.
irrigation and farming and all sorts of fun stuff.
Right, like, yeah, it comes up,
Yeah,
but it's been an absolute, it's been fun. It's been very good, and we will definitely do it again, and we will definitely, do something even better.
Festival of World Building is
Yeah.
my vote. That would be
I
great.
like that. I think that is the way to do it. Get some
Hmm.
people together in a more, slightly more, what's the word? Broad group.
Hmm.
Pull it together, come up with some topics, break it up into streams, see if other streamers or YouTubers in general would wanna do stuff too even.
Yeah, well, I mean, Con Langery
Mm,
dropped by and like Edgar was there, and I'm sure if Edgar would do it, like he'd reach out to some of the other folks. Like I know he talks to Biblaridian and stuff like that. So there's
yeah,
probably
yeah, I think
a
he knows more
wider
people than I do.
yeah, there's probably a wider pool of folks that can be brought in.
It would be fun. We'll work on it. We'll workshop it.
Workshop it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna bounce. Thank you for having me 2 times, Madeline, and thank you
Yeah,
for
of course.
suffering
Thank
me
you for
chat.
coming. Yeah.
All right, and have a great week.
Yep, you too.
All right. See you later.
Bye. Okay. So we only have a few more minutes left. So I think what I probably want to do is just kind of step through some of the stuff, see as if anyone has any like final stuff to add, and then I'll probably head out here too. But I mean, I feel like we've gotten a lot done. I do feel like I've made a lot of progress. And I feel like I've made a lot of very useful progress too, to where it's gotten me thinking to parts of the city that like other people have researched and had thoughts and ideas on that I wouldn't have dived into too much on my own. Thank you, Phil. I agree. I think it's great. But like this whole section, like this is all totally a product of the chat. You know what I mean? And like input from everyone and people's like knowledge and expertise. Cause like I would not have come up with something even half this interesting on my own. And like, well, I definitely brought like, a decent bit of understanding to certain parts. I had a lot of holes in my understanding there that I think we've really been able to kind of flesh out together and kind of pull on everyone. And I feel confident in my choices. And same thing here with like the temple complex. Like I feel like there was a good bit of stuff coming together for that, and I have a lot of information from Ross that I can go in and incorporate and zhuzh up a little bit, keep the Snoopy forever, you know? But yeah, like, because even, you know, once a little bit of neatening, and I feel like this would look really fancy, really quick, and definitely be enough to reference. Notes, question mark? Is that a question mark for my notes? You want the link to my notes again, or you want, what is notes? Oh my gosh, but I will say, I'm gonna need to, like, notes much? Yeah, lots of notes. There are notes everywhere. So I don't know, I'm super excited. I think that, thinking that I would be able to done everything, that was a bit, much to expect. Got a fair bit done too, despite how many random questions there were. Yeah, like, we definitely were chatty and going over stuff, and, like, you do, to an extent, lose a little bit of productivity if you're not just sitting there hyper-focused on it, you know, for an extended period of time straight, but, you know, I think the results are better, even if, you know, maybe a little bit slower, and this was more fun, and I would not have spent this much time in a row working on this weekend if I wasn't doing a stream, which is why I did it. No, the whole map is not going to be done next weekend. Well, first, I'm going on a writing retreat next weekend with Phil, who is, I think, still in the chat at this point. So we're going to be doing that, and I'll be prepping all week long of making sure all my outline stuff is together. Like, I have to pull all of those notes off my whiteboard so I can bring them with me and get everything ready for that. Yes, heist retreat. It's going to be very fun. But yes, maybe I'll get a little bit of mapping done, you know, over time and get to fill this out. But everything that I need for my story is kind of fleshed out at this point, so I don't know. Maybe I won't need to do too much. It's possible that I won't ever 100% finish every square inch of this, if I don't need to, or get a random inspiration to add something, but hopefully I'll finish it and then I can show it to everyone. But yes, I, you know, just want to say one final time, how much I really appreciate everyone being here. I know I've said this like 3 times already, but like, I really did not expect people to be here constantly the whole time, or like, I think there's some people that have been here almost literally the entirety of the time I've been streaming, and it's been very nice. I feel like very connected with the world building community this weekend, and it's been nice. Yes. Yeah, Seamus, you're definitely one of them. I think where is, oh, they haven't been on the stream for a little while. I think they dropped out of the later streams today, but there's someone that was on the whole time yesterday too. And there's been a few people that have been in like a lot of them, and then it's been nice seeing people pop in, and I know there's been some people that have been like lurking consistently, and it's just, I don't know. It feels very nice. I've had fun, and I've enjoyed chatting with people. Not just doing these by myself has been, I think, nice. I think you all would have gotten tired of me if it was literally just me for like 24 hours over the course of a weekend. You would have been like, come on, you don't have interesting stuff to say anymore. Thank you, Seamus. But yeah, I think I'm probably going to do another save on all of my files. I'm going to get going. It's like 8 p.m. here. I probably need to go to bed in like an hour and a half. So I'm going to like lay face down on the floor somewhere and just be like, oh, tired of sitting in a chair or standing. Yeah, no, you definitely didn't distract. It's been great. Yeah, and I hope you all got a lot done too, in like a sort of like work together sort of vibe, and learning from our, you know, experts and other people. Yes, and sleeping. I will be sleeping and getting ready for the week because I'm sure it's going to be a long one. But yes, so thank you again, everyone. I hope you got a lot done. And yeah, I hope you learned. I hope you got stuff done. I hope you had a pleasurable weekend, and I hope you have a good week. And I will catch you all around in other videos later. And yes, rocks are important. They are very important. We've all learned that. And also glaciers there. Glaciation is the most important process of all things. Yes, I will. Okay, I'm just going to say goodbye now. I'm going to keep talking. Goodbye. Ending the stream.